Hey, I'm Gary Parrish, CBS Sports, here with Brian Thornton, the Chief Basketball Officer, Big 12 Conference. We're here at the Big 12 Spring Meetings in Frisco, Texas. How's everything going?
It's been good.
Yeah.
You know, we just wrapped up with our men's basketball and women's basketball portions of the meeting. I think by and large they went very smooth. It's always great to have your coaches in person. Conversation's much better that way.
Chief Basketball Officer, you were promoted to that position. Explain what that means.
Well, for the last couple of years since I came to the league, I had served as Vice President of men's basketball, and because we have a great men's basketball product, they made me look really good. You know, we have great coaches, great players, and Brett gave me the opportunity to be Chief Basketball Officer, and what that means is overseeing our entire basketball portfolio, inclusive of women's basketball. Our women's basketball VP of basketball, Dana Scherf, has done a fantastic job of being a champion for women's basketball. But what this allows us to do is work more collaboratively between men's and women's basketball, hopefully leverage some of the success from a men's standpoint and the partnerships that we have to enhance what women's basketball is. And it's pretty simple. We're trying to have the best basketball product that we can, both on the men's and women's side.
You mentioned Brett Yarmark, he of course Big 12 commissioner. One of the things I appreciate about him as a college basketball columnist and analyst is that he really prioritizes basketball. He recognizes its importance and has tried to make that clear to anybody who will listen throughout the country. How are you and him aligned on continuing to make this one of, if not the best, men's basketball conference in the country?
Well, we do think it's the best men's basketball conference in the entire country. And, you know, he always talks about this being the second best league in the country outside of the NBA. And what we want to continue to do is to be disruptive in the right ways. You know, we try things, we throw spaghetti up on the wall and we see what sticks. You know, we tried the glass court last year. You know, that was something that we tried because we wanted to be forward facing and we wanted to be at the cutting edge of what college athletics is. And we're going to always be willing to peek around the corner and see what opportunities exist. I really enjoy working with Brett because we get to try things. You know, we get to have conversations about what the world really looks like and the things that we can do to try to move the needle. You know, our product is superior. You know, we have, again, some of the best coaches and the best student athletes in the entire country playing within the Big 12 conference, whether it's Hall of Fame coaches, coaches that are in the prime of their career or up-and-comers. We have it all here. And Brett and I continue to look at ways to do things differently, and that's probably the fun thing about being at the Big 12.
And it's not just great basketball programs, great basketball coaches, the talent is in place. Evidence being that you are probably going to have the #1 pick in the 2026.
Maybe #1 and #2.
Could. That's certainly the way that most mock drafts are shaping up right now. And then, based on the way some recent recruiting developments have gone, you could also have the #1 pick in 2027. So the talent in the Big 12 in men's basketball, it's as good as it gets.
It's as good as it gets. I mean, you said it just there. You know, the talent that we had from a freshman standpoint last year was maybe the best the country's ever seen within the walls of one conference. You know, we're going to probably see 4 or 5 of the top 10 players drafted in a couple weeks be freshmen from the Big 12. That's outstanding. Like, we could break the record for the amount of draft picks that the Big 12's ever had. You know, guys that'll be first-round draft picks are guys that didn't even make first or second team all conference. Now, think about that in terms of the level of talent that we had within this league. And, you know, while we had that influx of youth, we had some really, really good veterans as well. You know, some of those guys didn't get to realize their potential because of injuries, but think about, we brought back JT Toppin at Texas Tech into this league, who was a first-team All-American, Big 12 Player of the Year, and then he didn't get to play the second half of the season because of an injury. But like, that's the type of talent that we had within this league, and we're going to continue to have this because of the level of coaches that we have.
And this is something you and I have talked about off camera, but the talent that is in college basketball right now, it is a direct byproduct of NIL and revenue share. I know that some fans like to pop up on social media about how they don't like this or that, but there is no denying the level of basketball in college is higher than it's been in a while and perhaps ever. And the level of basketball is a byproduct, again, of the money luring these players back to school, including Big 12 schools.
Absolutely. You know, we talked about this earlier today, like the amount of student athletes that are putting themselves into the NBA process is like falling off of a cliff because it pays to be a good college basketball player right now. And the guys that used to be kind of tweeners or bigs that maybe weren't NBA players, now they have the opportunity to create a life-changing situation while being in college and doing it for 3, 4, or 5 years. So, of course, the product is going to be better. Now, you mentioned some of the challenges around, the freedom of movement that takes place, the transfer process, and just the amount of money that's in the system. Yes, our teams are better. The basketball product is better. Now, hopefully, we can find a way to where teams or programs are being built versus teams being built on an annual basis, because I think that eventually fans want that. They want to be able to fall in love and get to know a player over the course of multiple years versus what it feels like to see a guy 1 year and out the next. I mean, you're a guy that's been around college basketball for a long time in Tennessee and whatnot. You can probably name the starting five from Memphis or Tennessee or whoever from whatever year because they were around for a period of time. And we've lost a little bit of that. Hopefully we can get a little bit of that back down the road.
To that point, I'm a Memphis alum. I live in the Memphis area, as you know. When I was my youngest son's age, I knew every player on the roster and every Louisville player and every Cincinnati player.
Louisville's my hometown now.
Okay. And so that was old Metro Conference stuff.
That's right.
And now, because of, my kids are not as familiar with Memphis basketball players.
Well, what they're familiar with is the Memphis. They're familiar with the
100%.
name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back.
But the larger point is that we have cycled through college basketball players. The way the schedule works, football starts, America's tied up in that, football's over, more people start to look at basketball, they go, oh, this freshman's great, 2 months later, he's gone. And that will still mostly be the case for top 10 picks, lottery picks, but we are getting players like that back in college. And so now a young person's favorite college basketball player, you might get to see him for more than 5 months. And for about the past 20 years, it's been, for the best talents, about a 5-month experience. Now we can turn this into, depending on where the rules go, theoretically, 5 years.
Absolutely, and what you might find, if depending on how the transfer policy takes place, hopefully we get to a point of multiple year agreements where maybe guys can stick at a place for longer. But now it becomes more like the professional model where you pick a favorite player and your favorite team sometimes becomes where that player is at. And that's a little bit of a different model from the traditional college model, but you're right, there's more of those guys that have the ability to stay in college longer because it's so valuable for them to do so.
So there was a reception last night here at the resort, and I was around a lot of your men's basketball coaches, and there's a lot of interesting conversations, but they did settle into one about scheduling. Yeah. How many conference games should we be playing? 18 is a number some like. I've heard 20 from others, and then the disagreements start wrapping around. Where are you at as somebody who's going to have a voice in this? How many league games should the Big 12 be playing?
Well, I think to be determined.
Yeah.
I think that we have been at both 18 and 20 in recent years. We're currently at 18, and we were at 18 last year, and it worked out pretty well. We played a really strong quality non-conference schedule. We had the best non-conference record of any P4 in the country, and we had the best record against all the P4s combined. So that's a positive. From a conference standpoint, what we know is that our conference games rate at an incredible level. And as we think about the totality of market and media rights and our obligations and whatnot, the more games that we can have that are being rated at a high level, that's good for us and it's good for our membership down the road, from the financial standpoint. So it's something that we have to continue to dig into and explore. I know that it's not a one-size-fits-all model. Now everybody does have to play the amount of games that we dictate from a conference standpoint, but we have to figure out what works for the most. There's also this piece about neutral site games. And what's happened in recent years is, the influx of money in the system has forced a lot of the traditional quality non-conference games that take place in November and December off of campuses because of promoters and the opportunity to make money in those, which I totally understand why teams need to do that because they have to pay the players.
All of this is a business.
All of this is a business. Now, but what that does is the less quality non-conference games that are being played On campuses, that's the less inventory that the conference has to put forward to their media rights partners. So the one thing that we always do control is our conference games. So that's why that conversation takes place, and I'm sure we'll continue to have it in the next couple of weeks and months before we ultimately make a decision.
And don't you imagine these conversations are happening in all power conferences right now?
They should be.
Yeah.
You know, I think that everybody's having the conversation of the balance of flexibility and allowing people to, you know, make autonomous decisions with how they do their non-conference schedules, which they should have some autonomy there, because again, it's not a one-size-fits-all model. What's good for Kansas might not be good for Oklahoma State and vice versa. But also, our games are really good when you get to February and January and February. And like, we want to make sure that we capitalize on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the tightrope here is you've got to walk a line of what's good for Kansas might not be good for Oklahoma State, and what's good for Kansas might not be good for the Big 12, and vice versa. Like, you guys might be pulling in different directions. I guess that's why you get the big bucks. Let me get you out of here with this. People ask me all the time, where is college athletics heading? And I say, buddy, I'm not sure. But it's a question. You're a smart guy. You've worked in lots of leagues. You've been around all of this for a while. When people ask you that question, what is college athletics going to look like in 10 years? What's the Big 12 going to look like in 5 years? How do you answer that?
Well, I think that's $1 million question, no pun intended.
Yeah.
You know, I think that what we are starting to see is that programs that have the ability to capitalize on their value will do so. You know, I think that this has become a business. You know, this is a professional model within a pseudo-amateur system. You know, I think that as an industry, we have to figure out what matters most. What's the most important thing that we're trying to solve, and we have to work backwards. You know, do we want the academic component to be a big part of this process? If we do, then we have to create rules around that. Do we want, you know, student athletes to have the ability to continue to capitalize on their biggest earning potential years? I think that that's a place that we're always going to be in. It just has to figure out what it looks like. In my opinion, I think we eventually get to a world that looks more like the professional model with some academic components to it. Collective bargaining probably has to be a part of the process at some point. In order to get something, you have to give up something as well. So if we want transfer policy, we have to give up something. If student athletes want the opportunity to have these increasing salaries, they have to give up something. So I hope that those are part of the conversation. You know, I think that it's different when you have an industry at the Division I level that has 360 plus teams that are operating pseudo under the same rules. That's so much different than 30 or 32 teams operating in the pro model. So what's good for Chattanooga or Lehigh or schools like that are going to be different than what's good for Kansas or Arizona. But maybe there's a pathway that we do things like they do in Europe, where a guy at Chattanooga, if they recruit him and they develop him and he has an opportunity to transfer to Tennessee or Memphis, that Chattanooga gets something for those services so they can go find the next Gary Parrish to play on their team.
You don't want me, I don't think. Brian, it's always great to see you, man. It's been a real pleasure being here. I appreciate your time.
Look forward to having you back next year.
Thanks so much.
To the basket. Good pass, right, in rhythm, no good. What was that? A.J. DeBonsa coming out of the rafters. Yikes! Just goes up, one hand, gathers, finishes with authority, and the stare down for good measure. DeBonsa, one-on-one, crossover, elevates, knocks down the stop, and a foul! That should not be legal. I mean, the shimmy, the shake, creates space. That's 6'9", getting to his spot, elevating up, getting fouled with elite level footwork and ball handling. A.J. DeBonsa putting on
A.J.
a show.
DeBonsa, 6'9", wing, playmaker, versatile offensive player, really elite defender, big-time athlete.
DeBonsa initiates off the wing. Gets the switch from Powell. Drives on Powell. Oh! Air A.J. takes off.
The goal is to win. I mean, it's not too complicated up in my head. It's just win, win, win.
DeBonsa inside. Woo!
I think Houston just fell asleep on the inbounds. They weren't ready to play defense.
Smiling as he was hanging in the air when he fired that pass. DeBonsa, oh, he spins one home. Come on, man. What can he do? than the physicality that he plays with.
The guy that's on the team that's blowing the other team out, or if you're losing, you get, There you go. It's time to put a vision for that one. That was incredible.
2 feet. 21 for Devanza. Here's a steal. And the highlight of the night. The dunk of the night after the steal.
First use those long arms to get a clean steal, and then a little, how do we describe this one? It's like a little bit of a windmill.
Kind of a windmill.
A little bit of a windmill.
Saunders 19 and Wright with 9. Another steal. Here they come again. Oh! Hello, Sports Center. What a dunk by Devanza. Look at this.
When Devanza gave it up, he knew he was going to get it back. He trusted, if I give this up to Richie, he's going to get it back to me right here. That's great communication without talking by two great players.
Big 12 today. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. We are live. We are with you until 10 o'clock Central Time. That man is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, producer Taman on the board, producer Anthony behind the camera. We've got a Power Rankings Wednesday. Ari.
Sir?
You sent us a text last night that I'd like to address.
Okay.
I like it, number one. This comes in at 9:42, so you know I've checked out.
Yes.
Should we power rank the craziest things human beings have tried for science or otherwise? Great idea.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing today. I'm a huge fan. But then you go on to reference Benjamin Franklin.
Yes. So, I mean, normally when we power rank, we put our pants on one leg at a time, but once our pants are on, we power rank, but that's a given. We power rank something Big 12, and then we power rank something random, but the random has to do with the day. And there weren't a ton of great birthdays today. It's like Judy Garland's birthday today.
Lame.
Yeah, super lame. Like Elizabeth Hurley. And I was like, so the national days weren't great. So it's like, oh, this happened this historically happened today, which was that on this day, 1752?
1752.
Benjamin Franklin, who was convinced that the lightning had to do with electricity. It wasn't just some phenomenon in the sky. So he built a kite with a huge antenna on it and found that, lightning was, in fact, electricity, which was actually, in hindsight, one of the dumber things you can do. Subsequently, a few other scientists, quote-unquote, effed around and found out as they were killed trying to duplicate the same experiment.
Which
so
is
it's like, man, that sounds crazy.
I just love the fact that we're referencing the 1700s.
Yeah.
Because you just got back from a week-long expedition in Maine, and I don't find it a coincidence.
I fancy myself a Benjamin Franklin type.
Right, like this guy spends a week in Maine. He comes back with wooden teeth and wants us to call him General. Timken. So that's what we're going to do.
Which, by the way, you've not been doing.
General Timken.
Yeah. I asked you that like 40 times yesterday. You
my
respect the general.
All right, so we're going to power rank the top positional groups in the Big 12.
This is a big one, by the way. So today is our final day for the road to Arlington, Texas Tech. So it's perfect. Makes perfect sense that we would then sort of compile our findings into a top 5 list of the best position groups across the Big 12.
And I tried to sprinkle it around as much as I could because Texas Tech and BYU, when I look at their rosters, they're loaded. It's Texas Tech, it's BYU, and it's everybody else, which was the case in 2025. So let's dive in. Ari, power rankings, the top 5 positional groups in the Big 12. Who do you have at number 5?
Whoa, this is like just jump right into it. There wasn't even any
We got Shahan coming up in 10 minutes. We got to go.
Getting into what's going on with Sorsby. Aren't you just chopping at the bit to be talking Sorsby?
Yes.
All right, number 5 for me. First, I've got to mention UCF's secondary gets an honorable mention for me. This was one of the best passing defenses in the Big 12 last year under Alex Grinch, and they returned virtually everybody from that same group. So I couldn't fit them into my top 5. Too many spots taken up by BYU and Texas Tech, to your point. But UCF secondary, I wanted to make mention.
Oh, okay, so this is like honorable mention.
Yeah, number 5 for me is Cincinnati's offensive line. Joe Cotton at left tackle is arguably one of the best tackles in the Big 12. Evan Tengesdal, Taron Tayo, that's the returning core of what will be one of the best offensive lines in the Big 12. And that's, to me, why it's number 5 on my list overall. Just the returning talent, the talent that they brought into the portal. This is a huge strength, and again, probably one of the best offensive lines in the entire Big 12. Cincinnati's O-line, number 5 for me.
Huge fan of that pick. Number 5 for me, I've got Arizona State wide receivers.
Ooh.
Jordan Tyson is gone. I get that. But new face number 1 is Omarion Miller, the Colorado transfer, who was rated as the number 9 overall transfer in the entire portal, any position by 24/7 Sports, over 800 yards in an offense that really struggled to throw the football, 8 touchdowns. His 18 yards per catch actually led the entire Big 12 last season. He's explosive. He's a playmaker. But then I pair Reed Harris with him, the Boston College transfer, who only had 39 catches last year. But again, Boston College really struggled to throw the football. he still had 700 yards, over 20 yards per catch across the last 2 seasons. He was ranked as a top 5 wide receiver by multiple sources in the portal. He's 6'5", 217. I love that, like 6'5", gritty possession guy against the speedster, the route runner, pairing him with the Colorado transfer. So I go Arizona State wide receivers number 5.
Number 4.
Number 4 is where I have Arizona State wide receivers.
You don't say.
Yeah. To me, it starts with Hines Ward. There's a credibility here from a guy that is a Super Bowl champ and it was, in his day, one of the best receivers in the game of football. And he's done a great job as a coach of developing players. I mean, look at the development of Jordan Tyson over his time at Arizona State. And so now Marion Miller comes in, hoping for the same tutelage here. You mentioned Reed Harris, Raider Vines Bright as well. So they had Raiden Vines Bright as well. So they had 3 receivers for the portal. That'd be a fun name to say all year. And then, that in conjunction with Jalen Moss, Derek Eusebio, and Jaron Hamilton. So 3 guys back, 3 guys the portal. This is a deep group with tons of talent and one of the best coaches positional-wise in the entire Big 12 with Hines Ward. So I've got Arizona State wide receivers number 4.
Well, guess who I have at number 4? The Cincinnati offensive line.
How about that?
Turntables have turned, but only a little bit. We're just swapping seats. I've got Cincinnati's O-line at number 4. I think it's vastly underrated. You brought up Evan Tingesdahl, the guard, who's a 3rd-team All-American. Pro Football Focus, 3rd highest-rated guard nationally, any conference. And then Joe Cotton. It was like my number 1 offensive lineman in the Big 12 in terms of tackles. Tayo, I should say. Again, this is a Cincinnati offensive line that last year only allowed 7 sacks. That was 3rd nationally. They were really good. And they had a ton of injuries at running back and still churned out 5.9 yards per carry, and 3 of those guys are back to anchor that group. Cincinnati's offensive line is number 4 for me.
Number 3.
Number 3 for me is Texas Tech's secondary. It starts with Bryce Pollock, one of the best defensive players in the Big 12 heading into the season. And then, I mean, when you look at what else they were able to do, around Pollock in the portal with the guys that are coming up, for me, it was hard to decide kind of between Tech's linebackers, Tech's defensive line, Tech's secondary, because all 3 could make this list. But it's like, all right, but then you include pass rushers, linebackers. So for me, it's Texas Tech secondary. It's the return of Bryce Pollock, arguably the best returning player for Texas Tech in the entire deal. And then what else they have around him in the secondary at corner. So Texas Tech secondary from number 3.
So that's our first defensive side of the ball position group. Number 3 for me is I needed to highlight a quarterback room or a quarterback, a guy. So I go with Arizona's quarterbacks, and it comes down to one dude. Now, the backup's okay. He has a little bit of experience, but Noah Fafita. Also, Noah Fafita has done a fantastic job of staying healthy and upright throughout the course of his entire career, knock on wood. But what he did last season with the 3,300 passing yards, the 29 touchdowns, but the key number for me is he only had 6 interceptions. So a first-team All-Big 12 quarterback that is returning, to me, deserves to be on the list. And we just played an interview from him. I just love his mindset. He doesn't just want to be a guy that stayed and rewrote a bunch of Arizona history books. He wants to win. His number 1 goal is a Big 12 championship and the Rose Bowl. Very specific detail to their team goals. So Noah Fafita and that Arizona quarterback room checks in at number 3.
Number 2.
Number 2 for me is the BYU offensive line. Bruce Mitchell, it starts with him, one of the best offensive linemen in the entire Big 12, first team all Big 12 selection, plus Andrew Gentry and Kyle Safarchik, plus what they brought in through the portal. Look, I mean, this is Kalani Sitake's bread and butter. BYU has had pretty consistently good offensive lines. Last year, Utah was by far the number 1 offensive line of the Big 12, and I think this year BYU is that group. So BYU offensive line number 2 for me.
So we've got our first BYU hit. We already have Texas Tech. Number 2 for me is BYU's secondary. The offensive line was my hidden strength yesterday. I think it's vastly underrated. The secondary, though, I look at Satuala, the safety, double-digit tackles in more than half of their games last year. 3rd team All Big 12. He's 6'4", 215. has all the NFL tools that they look for in a safety. But then they have the two best corners in the league outside of Bryce Pollock at Texas Tech in Evan Johnson, who's an absolute game changer with his ball hawking ability, and then Trey Alexander on the other side, the third, I might add. 2 all Big 12 guys that come back. 3 all Big 12 guys when you factor in the safety. So the BYU secondary is locked down, experienced. They check all the boxes.
Number 1.
BYU linebackers. I went BYU 1 and 2 on my list. You start with Isaiah Glasker. You mentioned Acera, plus Cade Ulave in the portal. There's your top 3, and suddenly you're not really missing Jack Kelly in terms of his replacement. Jake Clifton checks in from K-State as a former K-State starter. Plus, they've got, younger guys that will factor in terms of competition. Miles Hall, Ace Kafusi. So, a lot of guys to pay attention to. Easily, in my opinion, the best group overall in the Big 12.
The Big 12 is linebacker U. Because I've got Texas Tech linebackers.
Yeah, I had a feeling.
At number 1. I know Jacob Rodriguez is gone, but they replace him with Austin Romaine, who even missing a third of the season was all Big 12. Back-to-back seasons. 2 years ago, when he was fully healthy and played the entire season, he was the number 1 rated linebacker in the conference, ahead of Jacob Rodriguez, who they lose to the NFL. But Ben Roberts is really the lead name. Almost 100 tackles last year, kind of playing in Rodriguez's shadow. He was the Big 12 championship game MVP, third team all Big 12. And then John Curry is a returning starter on the other side. It'll be his second year in the system as a starter, his third year in the program. He had more than 70 tackles and was massive down the stretch, had his best games of the year. So the Texas Tech linebackers, I don't see any drop-off with that group collectively. That is my number 1. All right, T-Chains, do you need to reference the text for what we're randomly power ranking?
No, I know what you guys are randomly power ranking. Human experiments that went wrong. Benjamin Franklin, 1700.
Well, it didn't go wrong. It's just
technically
crazy.
Went right. Yeah,
Yes.
It was. Yeah, they didn't know, but it went right. What was wrong was right.
Yeah, so on June 10th, 1752, Benjamin Franklin was testing a theory that he'd been developing for years. The lightning wasn't a supernatural event, but a natural electrical phenomenon, the same force you'd get from rubbing a glass rod on silk. So he took a kite, he built a kite from a silk handkerchief, stretched over a cedar cross frame. He attached a sharp metal wire to the top of his kite for the antenna meant to attract the electrical charge from the cloud. Basically, when a storm cloud passed over, the loose fibers of the wet kite's string stood on end. The first signal of the string was conducting charge. The wild part, he almost certainly didn't do this during an active lightning strike. The experiment worked from the ambient electrical field of thundercloud, which is still extraordinarily dangerous. I don't even know. It's well beyond my own comprehension.
Well, when I've got an umbrella in my hand and I'm outside in a storm, I'm nervous. I can tell you that.
Well, don't put up an antenna on your umbrella.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
I also get really worried about getting hit by lightning while I'm driving. That's been a top 5 fear of mine since I was behind the wheel.
They say, that it's actually the safest place you can be.
I've heard that because of your tires.
Yeah, because apparently the lightning bounces off rubber.
Oh. I love how James did not know that.
Hence why we don't see more vehicles struck by lightning. That's fantastic.
I also always wondered, as I heard that as a kid, why roofs didn't have rubber on them for that exact reason.
Good point.
I don't know.
This guy.
Question of the day.
Clearly there's a reason for it because it feels like a pretty easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Just stick some rubber on roofs, but
Why
I don't know.
aren't we doing that? A week in Maine, he comes back. He's teaching U.S. history. I love it. All right. What do you have?
Technically 5 days.
5 days. Excuse me. That's all it took. Who do you have at?
All right, so we are power ranking the top 5 craziest, dumbest, but smart things ever.
Okay.
How else should you phrase that?
No, I think that feels right. I've got just a bunch of random invention experiments.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? At some point, we had to figure out some of these things. Now, many of them are standard, but there was a point in time in which they weren't, and so somebody had to do something crazy in order to figure out if it would actually work. And those people are heroes, and we've got to commemorate them with what we're doing right now.
Not all heroes wear capes. All right, what do you have at number 5?
All right, I went a little bit off the board here in terms of like this wasn't exactly for experimentation, but maybe it was. Evel Knievel jumped Caesar's Palace fountains in 1967. Now he didn't make it. He jumped the fountain, crashed catastrophically, was in a coma for 30 days.
Good Lord!
And then kept jumping for another decade.
He came out of a 30-day coma and thought, you know what, I should try that again.
I should keep doing this.
That is relentless pursuit.
That's why he's Evel Knievel. Number 5, Evel Knievel jumping Caesar's fountains and not making it, and then still jumping for another decade.
All right, mine are going to be super short because these are just some that I think we should dabble in. How about the traffic laser? I know that slow drivers in the left lane drive you absolutely bananas. We've got a left lane guy driving 47 in a 70. How about a satellite-guided relocation beam? We hit him with that satellite beam. We slowly move him off the road and into a Costco parking lot, and we are zipping on by.
I'm confused here. What exactly are... It's a great idea.
I'm full of ideas. That's what I brought to the table today. My
Ideas.
invention history is not up to par, and I knew you'd have some really juicy stuff.
Got it. Okay, so you're just coming up with cool ideas.
Yeah, cool ideas.
So you took the idea of let's do the craziest things that humans have ever done and said, I'm just going to give you
I
ideas.
thought, what could we do?
Number 4 for me is Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier in 1947. You may recall that. The issue with Chuck was that 2 days before the flight, he fell off a horse and broke 2 ribs, and he didn't want the mission to be scrubbed. So he basically had to break the sound barrier with 2 broken ribs. He couldn't seal the cockpit hatch because he was so hurt. So he actually used a broomstick in order to seal the cockpit hatch. Yeah, so like very easily could have killed himself by doing that. And instead of saying like, hey, can somebody help me here? No. He didn't want anybody to help him because only he could close it from the inside. So he closed with a broomstick.
Inside man.
Yeah. By the way, if you've ever watched The Simpsons, both the top 2 of my lists include Simpsons references.
Oh.
So they are
Don't
very
get me
much...
started on the Simpsons conspiracy theory rabbit hole. I'm there. Been there for
Not a
years.
conspiracy theory. It's just Simpsons' great teacher of history.
Yeah, or facts.
Yeah.
Predicting the future, too. How about the laundry cannon? I hate folding clothes. It is my nemesis. We set up a cannon directly pointed at your bedroom, your bed, fires those clothes through a series of tubes at 200 miles an hour. They land perfectly wherever you need them, perfectly folded. Bam, laundry's done.
How do you load the cannon?
Oh, it's connected to your dryer, so it just churns those babies out. Again, at 200 miles per hour. If it's going 150, you've got a problem.
Okay, you're starting to sound like my 8-year-old who comes up with these crazy things, and then it's like, then you ask him questions, and he starts to like, well, it does this, but then it does that.
I don't know how it does it, but it's doing that.
It's doing that,
I love
yeah.
his imagination.
Got it. 200 miles per hour seems a
little bit extreme.
Doesn't
gone from 47 in the left lane to 200. Don't worry about it.
Maybe not necessary, I guess, would be the best way to say.
No, it's fine. I'm sure, like, you get hit by one of those items, you're fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Totally. That makes all the sense in the world. All right, number 3. Where are we?
Number three,
I'm so confused. I'm not going to lie. 3 is Harry Houdini being buried alive. Dude loved it. Oh, yeah. You remember Harry Houdini?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Houdini,
I don't know his backstory.
Houdini would regularly get handcuffed, chained, locked in boxes, and submerged into water. He did this all the time, but he was also buried alive. And there was one incident in which he was nearly killed. He had to claw his way out from 6 feet underground after he panicked. He was bleeding. He passed out at the surface. He then retired that stunt. But still, I mean, Harry Houdini buried himself alive for the sake of magic.
No.
Yeah.
Hard pass.
Yeah.
What's that Ryan Reynolds movie where he's like trapped in a coffin or a box underground for the entire movie? 90 minutes.
Is it the magic one with rapid fire?
I think he's telling us to do rapid fire. All right,
it.
you go. Number 2. I don't think that's the name of the movie.
You ran out of inventions?
No, I've got a ton of inventions.
Go ahead, rapid fire here.
My favorite is the dad remote. Pause your kids, rewind them, mute them.
Ooh.
I don't know how we get there. Maybe some type of a Neuralink device that's connected to my watch, but beep.
Number 2 for me would be the first 2 people to ever get up to the summit at Mount Everest. They didn't know if the human body could survive at that altitude. Nobody had done it. The death zone was above 26,000 feet, which is called the death zone for a pretty good reason. So basically they knew they were climbing Everest to see if the human body could actually survive at that height. And the answer is yes, they could. However, they didn't even have any gear. Like, it's crazy that they survived this. Think about, like, all the people that hike Everest with gear. They were just like, yeah, we're raw dogging it. That's number 2.
Bro, there's so many dead bodies on that mountain.
Yeah. You've been, I know.
Yeah, I've been. Yeah, I've scaled it and listened to some podcasts. Hundreds of dead bodies up there just chilling. All right, how about the text message translator? You type a short, dry texting, type text. It churns. It's like the prompt cowboy. It just churns out what you're actually trying to say. Beautifully done. It's a master class. Too long, didn't read. Bam. Hit that button. It's there.
Number 1 for me is Benjamin Franklin. Bro, what are you doing? You didn't have to do this. You'd be known for a lot of other things had you not done this, and yet you did it and could have killed yourself, and you didn't. Amazing. I mean, on the list of things you know Benjamin Franklin for, where would flying a kite and lightning rank?
We
could power rank the top 5 things. That's what we should have done. Top 5 things Benjamin Franklin did in his life. This wouldn't even crack the top 5.
Bestseller. Bam. He put an antenna on a kite, not an umbrella. A kite, right?
Kite. Thank you.
Wild.
I said umbrella. Which one is it?
It's a kite. You told me it was a kite
It's
earlier.
a kite-brella.
Yeah. Kite-brella.
Kite-brella.
Shahan Jayaraja, CBS Sports, is coming up next. This is Big 12 Today, powered by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn.
Jackson's in trouble now. David Bailey, he is a sack machine. Third and 8.
Never a dull moment in the Big 12. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are powered by our friends at Modelo and our buddy Shahan Jayaraja, national college football writer for CBS Sports, joins us. Shahan, I guess, good morning, number one. Number two, just I'd love to know what's the chatter among you and your colleagues at CBS when it comes to everything surrounding Brendan Sorsby.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think things have escalated a little quicker than even I expected. Certainly I didn't expect the ruling that came on Monday. I thought that Brendan Sorsby would have his eligibility denied, but this is something that I think has broken contain in a lot of ways. This has gone from a Big 12 story, a Texas story, to one that's all around college athletics right now, one that's even reaching mainstream news right now. So this is, again, has just escalated in a way that I did not anticipate, and I think it's only going to continue to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and Shahan, my point before all this was that I thought the injunction would be granted, and I did not think that Tech or Sorsby was ready for the media firestorm that was going to engulf them, and I think that's what's happened here. Do you get the sense here that that this is how it's going to be? Do you think that Texas Tech will make some internal decisions here? There's obviously unrest within the Big 12. Give us a sense here of how you think what you think happens moving forward.
Well, I do think that, for one, like you said, I think that this is worse than people in Lubbock expected. I mean, it's funny, right? It's the whole dog catching the car thing, right? Where you fight and fight for a thing, and then you get it, and then you're like, whoa, I don't know. I don't think that Texas Tech is going to abandon Sorsby. I think that they're going to stand by him. I think that for a couple of reasons. One, I mean, there is a very, us against the world mentality in Lubbock and at Texas Tech. And they kind of feel like, once you're one of us, we are going to fight for you. So I think that Texas Tech really does want to stand by Brendan Sorsby. Obviously, again, they understand how complicated all this has become. But I think the other thing, too, is that I think that this is angering people that is, again, a surprise to everybody, right? I mean, for Georgia and Nebraska to come out and say, we won't schedule you guys in baseball. We won't schedule you guys in volleyball because of what's happening here. I mean, again, that's a level that I think is a little surprising. I think that the other piece, too, is that the Big 12 and other Big 12 schools have been a little bit more aggressive in being public about their frustrations than I expected. Of course, Big 12 athletic directors met yesterday with 15 out of 16 of them expressing that we really do not think that Brendan Sorsby should be allowed to play. Reportedly, Big 12 presidents are going to meet in the upcoming days, and there are precepts in the Big 12 bylaws that would allow the Big 12 and Big 12 presidents to vote to potentially sanction Texas Tech and potentially push more punishment. So, look, if you asked me early in the day on Monday after this decision came out, I would say definitely we're going to see Brendan Sorsby on the field. Texas Tech is going to, have him as quarterback one. I think that, again, this is spiraling a little bit. And for one, I think that other Big 12 schools are going to fight against this more than I expected. And I think the other piece of this as well is that I do think that, again, this pressure is real. And I think that some people are hoping, frankly, that either Texas Tech or Brendan Sorsby will ultimately decide this just isn't worth it.
Shahan, just to follow up there, so Troy Dannon, the athletic director at Nebraska, said we're not scheduling Texas Tech moving forward in all sports. Nebraska just had a run-in with the CSC where they tried to push deals through that the CSC said are not above board from an NIL perspective, and basically said, we're not going to follow these rules anymore. I get that there's a distinction between gambling and that, but they're essentially playing quote-unquote ineligible players. Doesn't that compromise the integrity of the sport, the thing that everybody keeps talking about?
Well, I'll say this. I don't want to get into the whataboutism game, right? Because I think that it does kind of spiral, and again, you end up in a position where everybody just kind of disregards the rules and sort of says, well, this person did that, this person did that, but I do think, for me, it was a little bit of surprise that Nebraska was one of the schools, not because of that necessarily, but because Joey McGuire's closest friend in the industry is Matt Rule. who of course is the head coach at Nebraska. They have a really good relationship.
Great point.
Joey McGuire started his collegiate career at Baylor coaching under Matt Rule. His son, by the way, coached under Matt Rule with the Carolina Panthers. Like, they have a long, very, close relationship. So I was a little surprised that Nebraska was one of those schools. But again, I think all of this is to express, like, there is a level of anger here across college athletics that again is just a little different, because I think that people do feel like this is the one thing that you are not allowed to do, is gamble on your own games. If that doesn't matter, then the NCAA really just doesn't have any power at this point.
Shahan Jayaraja from CBS joins us here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Your colleague, Brandon Marcello, noted that, the Big 12 had a call yesterday with all the athletic directors, and all of them, except Kirby Hocutt at Texas Tech, think that Brendan Sorsby shouldn't play. In terms of ideas to convince or pressure Tech to cut him loose or suspend him for the season, whatever it is, like what would have to happen for that to even be a possibility?
Well, the thing is, right, so like the Big 12 does have some discretion, especially when it comes to membership votes. And, a passage was shared with me of the Big 12 bylaws that essentially said, I believe that if 75% of Big 12 schools and Big 12 presidents vote, they can actually sanction a member. And now, again, what does that look like? And also, there's also the question of, do you at any point run into legal challenge as well, right? I think that certainly liability is something that everybody's also trying to think about. But, again, it was pointed out to me, the Big 12 is not a party to this lawsuit between Brendan Sorsby and the NCAA, so they're not necessarily bound by it in the same way. So, again, could they just decide to suspend for the whole season? Again, we don't really know how far, frankly, they're willing to go. Because again, if they were to do something like that, certainly that would face a legal challenge as well. So a really complicated situation. And again, there is some level of this that does come down to how much are other member schools, how much are other college athletics programs willing to challenge to fight against this, essentially.
Should Brendan Sorsby play?
The thing I've been saying is that, again, I don't think that Texas Tech is going to force him not to play. I think, though, that if you're Brendan Sorsby, there's just got to be a level, I think, of looking around and saying, is this worth it for me, right? Because, like, from everything that I've heard, like, I've not met Brendan Sorsby personally, but I've heard really good things about Brendan Sorsby, the person, the way he handles himself, all this sort of stuff. And, like, I think that you got to look around right now and sort of be like, man, am I making myself bigger than not just the team, but like the entire athletic department right now? Am I making myself bigger than Texas Tech University? And I get it. It's also complicated, right? I mean, he signed a big contract to be able to play. This is his livelihood on the line as well. He wants to make a good impression for NFL scouts. But like, there does come a point where, again, he has a diagnosed gambling addiction and anxiety disorder. Is it the best thing for him to have this level of scrutiny playing major college football? I'm not obviously the right person to answer that question, but I think that it's something that people in his camp should at least be considering right now, right? So, it's really difficult for me to say right now. If you asked me on Monday, I would have said, like, yeah, I expect him to be the starting quarterback. I think that, again, things have changed in ways that I couldn't have anticipated in the last couple of days.
Yeah, being the most hated person in a room of 70, 80,000 people cannot do good things for your mental health. I think that's an excellent point. Shahan, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again soon and seeing you at Big 12 Media Days, which are just around the corner. Shahan, great to catch up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Shahan Jayaraja, the best national college football writer for CBS, highlighting the Big 12 Conference. Always outstanding insight from Shahan. The team that we highlight today is Texas Tech for our Road to Arlington series. Coming up next, we break down the biggest question marks, biggest gamble, trap games, biggest game, 3-game stretch to define the season. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you by Modelo.
Robertson. Uh-oh. That's picked off. Keith Abney with the pilfer.
West Virginia down 2 scores. They get a reprieve. Jacob Barrick fumbles. And able to get it back. So on back-to-back plays as Keith Abney jars this one loose.
From the 24. Blitz coming. Pennington steps up. And he goes down. Keith Abney the second. The corner blitz for the Sun Devils.
So far, ASU has not surrendered a gain of more than 10 yards. Here's one that could happen in a hurry. Knocked out. A fumble recovered by Miles Rouser. Timeouts left for Rich Rodriguez. This is a must-have. 4th down and 4. And ASU takes it away. Keith Abney calls game. He needs 4. Handles a high snap. Lets it go. Right pylon. It is. Incomplete. Chris Don the target and a matchup of ones. Keith Abney wins this round.
Chris Level from the Texas Tech Radio Network and host of Locked On Red Raiders will provide what it's like in Lubbock. In about 35 minutes, he'll join us here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio from Lubbock to break down the Brendan Sorsby stuff. It is our Road to Arlington series, so we've been doing this for 16 business days. We started at 16. We've worked our way up the Big 12 standings to the Big 12 champs. Today is Texas Tech. The biggest question marks, biggest gamble, trap games, biggest game on their schedule, and the 3-game stretch to define their season. Before we dive in, T-Chains, let's hear from Joey McGuire. This isn't about Sorsby. This is an in-depth look at just how Texas Tech operates in terms of their personnel, their staffs, and what they do in their roles.
It's not the old school way. Like I would have a group of players that I needed to watch by Thursday on my desk. Then that went to the coordinator, and then that went to the head coach. And then we would sit down in a room, say, we're going to offer the players. I think one thing in my mind at one point, there were a couple players that I evaluated that I really wanted to recruit, and it got to the coordinator. The coordinator didn't like them. So then it never got to that Friday group. I was really like, okay, this is a broken system. You can't function this way. And then why am I even watching film if it gets to the coordinator and it never gets to this group? I actually went in and said, hey, I think the coordinator should watch all the film. Let me focus on the team that we have.
Coordinators watch the film. James Blanchard spearheads the scouting, the general manager, and they're off and rolling. All right, biggest question marks for Texas Tech are Road to Arlington.
Well, you got to start with Brendan Sorsby, of course, right? What's his mental psyche going to be like with the media firestorm that has engulfed him? And quite frankly, like the deeper we get into this, the worse it's going to get. It's just insane. Social media is insatiable right now. Like just the holier than thou, moral superiority thing. It's a drag, man. It's a freaking drag. People are obnoxious and annoying, and that's my take. But yeah, so what's Sorsby's psyche? Like, what's the locker room psyche? That's what the other thing too is like, how do his teammates feel about this? This is a group of players that don't know him. Many of them have probably spent time in spring or may know him from, his time at whatever. But like these guys don't know him. He's not a teammate in the locker room like he will be once the season goes. So I just think those are huge question marks. And then I think their offensive line is like a legitimate question mark here too. I mean, you've got Howard Sampson at left tackle, Wilson at center. And Ponton at right guard, Louisville transfer Jordan Church expected to start, but so they've got the talent, but it's a major question mark. Howard Sampson probably wasn't as good as he was expected to be last year. Otherwise, he would have bolted for the NFL and would have been a high pick. So he's got a big year ahead of him, and what they bring into the portal, I think, is a huge question mark.
Well, in the Sorsby case, if you will, really it's the first time that that locker room chemistry has been tested. Last season there's some injury issues at quarterback, but that's nothing compared to this. My biggest question mark are the trenches, the offensive and defensive line. Defensive line simply because your entire pass rush has gone to the NFL. An offensive line because of all the newness there. 4 of the 5 guys that started in the Big 12 championship game on the offensive line are gone. Now, I know they've loaded up in the portal, and Jordan Church was one of the most sought-after offensive linemen out there on the market, the Louisville transfer, but left guard is still an open competition. Hunter Zambrano was supposed to be the guy that started at that position last year. He battled injuries all year long. So there's still a lot of unknowns in terms of who the 5 would even be right now for Texas Tech. Biggest gamble.
Maybe we should avoid this one. My biggest gamble is
biggest uncertain outcome on a certain event.
Not applicable here because it touches a little bit too close to home here. So I'm going to say skip.
Hard pass.
I think it's
A.
kind of obvious.
Taking the high road.
I think it's kind of obvious what the biggest gamble is here because it's a literal gamble we're talking about.
Yeah, mine's just the quarterback position in general. Because even outside of the Sorsby stuff, which I still think it's very much TBD if he plays or not. There's a lot that can happen in the next 3 months. But even outside of him, your backup is Will Hammond, who's coming off a torn ACL. That's not a rolled ankle. We don't know who the week 1 or week 2 starter is going to be. We know who it won't be. And then by week 3, you've got Houston at home. Yeah, the quarterback room All right, trap game when you look at Texas Tech's schedule.
For me, it's West Virginia at home on November 7th. It's the second of the only back-to-back home games that Texas Tech has all year. They play Arizona on Halloween. That'll be, emotionally charged, big game on Halloween at Jones AT&T. West Virginia arrives the following week. Who knows how much more improved they're going to be, but certainly a team that, they lost 49-0 to Texas Tech last year to close out the season. So definitely a team that Texas Tech could be overlooking on their schedule. And after the West Virginia game, to me, is the toughest, that 3-game stretch to close out the year. So it's like their easiest game on the schedule that's home late in the season that could be overlooked.
Yeah, and totally agree. That's where I have my trap game as well. Because Texas Tech, the toughest games on their schedule are all at home. TCU's at home. Arizona State's at home. Arizona's at home. Houston as at home. All of those teams have to go to Lubbock and play in front of that Jones AT&T crowd. But West Virginia is a team that schematically, they can sneak up on people. Remember, they're the team late in the year that went on the road and beat Houston. Houston was like a 2-touchdown favorite in that game. So I'm with you on that because the 2 games after West Virginia are 2 teams that didn't make a bowl game last year. At Oklahoma State, at Baylor. Who knows what type of shape either of those teams and programs are going to be at that given time. When you're going into the West Virginia game, you're thinking, hey, we're going to cruise to that Thanksgiving showdown with TCU. So I love the West Virginia pick as well. Biggest game on Texas Tech's schedule.
This one you could have gone in multiple directions here. But I went with Houston on September 18th. It's the opening Big 12 game for Texas Tech. It's a Friday night game at home. It's arguably the toughest opponent on their regular season schedule. And, I just think you could go with the Arizona State game. But for me, it's week 3. So it's early in the season. You're at home on a Friday night. You got a really good team coming in that's, going to be a little bit underrated, I think, at that point in time. Like week 3, people don't know that Houston's going to be as good as they're going to be this year. So I just think that's their biggest game, even though it's so early in the season.
Mm-hmm. And if that is the opener for Brendan Sorsby, the stakes have never been higher.
Great point.
So I looked at that one as well, and so we've kind of bookended the biggest games because I've got TCU on that Thanksgiving Thursday, the last game of the year, November 26th.
That was the other one I thought about.
Texas Tech has not played a Thanksgiving home game since 1977. And the last time these two teams met, they didn't play last year. It was 2 years ago. Now, I know that was a different Texas Tech, but it went right down to the wire, 35-34. TCU actually won that game. And TCU is a team that with Jaden Craig at quarterback, I think he's going to get a lot better as he becomes acclimated with the size and the speed of Big 12 football. By Thanksgiving, if he's healthy, he could be a top 3 quarterback in this conference. I mean, the NFL scouts already love him. So I see potential for this to be a top 15, top 20, 2 ranked teams squaring off on Thanksgiving. All right, the 3-game swing stretch for Texas Tech.
Yeah, I went with the final 3 games of the regular season at Oklahoma State, at Baylor, and versus TCU to close it out. This is about survival. If we expect that Texas Tech will be undefeated or only have 1 loss and get to Arlington, this is the stretch that will define that. At Oklahoma State, by the end of the season, Oklahoma State should be the best version of itself. This is a team that's going to have to evolve and figure itself out over the course of the first couple of months, but by November, they'll have figured things out, and that's a road game in a tough environment. Then you go and have, at Baylor, which is a rivalry game, and then TCU. So you close out with 2 rivalry games back-to-back. One's on the road, one's at home. It's a tricky 3-game stretch against, 3 teams you could presumably lose to, but 3 teams you should absolutely be beating if you are as good as you think you are.
Well, in Oklahoma State, Stillwater, Oklahoma, and Waco, Texas, I think people forget that when those teams are playing good ball, those are 2 of the most hostile environments in the league.
Yep.
Oklahoma State fans are nuts. Baylor fans, when they pack McLean Stadium, it's a rowdy crowd. So if those 2 teams, either of them are having trajectory for an 8-win season, it's going to be tough. All right, so I'll go with the 3-game stretch right before the trap game that you and I both had, which was West Virginia, because I think there's 2 key blocks to their season. the last 3 games that you brought up, and the 3 games before West Virginia.
Yeah, agreed.
Arizona State at home, at Cincinnati. At Cincinnati is on Texas Tech's schedule. No details needed there.
Oh, yeah.
And then Arizona at home. Don't sleep on Arizona, man. Like, I look at Houston, I look at Arizona, 2 teams that the next step for them is to get to Arlington. I'm not convinced one of those 2 won't be in that game when it's all said and done.
Well, and that was the other stretch that I was deciding between. And the reason that I didn't was because of the 2 home games versus the 2 road games in that final stretch. But, yeah, I think you can make a pretty good case for either one. I would say on the whole, where we sit right now, that Arizona and Arizona State are better than any of the final 3 games they have, at least on paper right now.
They get them at home.
But they get them at home.
Exactly.
And that could change as we move through the season.
Right. Remember, Arizona State was the team that tripped up Texas Tech last year. Let's hear more from Joey McGuire. This is what he says Texas Tech believes to do to win a championship. Does he talk quarterback here? Let's find out.
We've got to be better up front, which we're taking another big step in the offensive line. Like this year at Oregon, you get in those games, then you're playing really good defensive lines, vice versa, really good offensive lines. So I think that's something that's really important for us to grow, continue to grow. The next step is our roster building and growing as a whole, offensively and defensively. I know what the standard is, but like these guys now know that they can do it, and we've played in it. There's like an expectation that we expect to be there, and now you got to figure out how to win it.
So he references the Oregon game in the college football playoff. You were there. You saw the matchup in the trenches. Texas Tech, Joey McGuire claims that they've upgraded on the offensive line and defensive line. Defensively, I don't know how that's possible. When you had David Bailey last year and Romello Height, I know A.J. Holmes is back, but, like, you just lost the number 2 overall pick in the draft. Are you buying that?
No. And I'm also not buying, like, great, awesome. You need to be better on offense, right? I mean, and I think, like, we'll get into this later on in this segment, but so much of what Texas Tech does this year will be seen through the lens of, yeah, but they were dominant on offense last year and did not show up in the biggest moment. So I think, there's sort of two ways to judge Texas Tech's offense this year, because they were really good offensively last year, one of the best rushing offenses in the Big 12, if not the best rushing offense in the Big 12. Their passing game was good. It was an explosive passing offense. But all those things looked like they were false based on the performance in that Orange Bowl. So I just think that's going to be a common recurring trend we're going to constantly reference this season when it comes to Tech. Yeah, their offense is good, but is it going to be good when they go up against Oregon?
Exactly. You lead the nation in explosive plays, but then don't score a point in the biggest moment on the biggest stage in the college football playoff. All right, more to come on Texas Tech, the road to Arlington. Who is the one player they can't lose? What is their hidden strength? The number, which is a stat that could define the season, the pressure point. What does success actually look like, and more around the corner. He's Ari, I'm James. We're brought to you by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on the Big 12 Fast Channel, Big 12 Studios.
He's home again. Changing up the look. The result is the same for David Bailey.
56% on the year on conversions. Jackson's in trouble and down. David Bailey, he is a sack machine.
More on 3rd and 8. Pressure and they get to him. He is sacked by the best in the biz, David Bailey. 14 and a half sacks now on the season.
On this possession, but a huge smack in the backfield again. It's David Bailey walloping Jamarian Burnett.
Work on an empty here. 3rd down and 9. Kansas State. Oh, goodness. Look out. David Bailey, the sack leader in the nation, gets home again.
Cam Pickett is much healthier now and running better. You see it there.
Oh, good night. David Bailey in a heartbeat. He graduated from Stanford in under 4 years, and he runs like this.
Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Powered by Modelo, where the off-season doesn't mean off. There is no off-season. Modelo fan rule number 31, the off-season only means research, and we research Texas Tech, the team today, for our Road to Arlington series. The one player they cannot lose, a hidden strength for this team. What is the number, a stat that could define the season? Who carries the pressure? What success actually looks like and why they will and won't win the Big 12 before Chris Level from Lubbock, Texas Tech Red Raider Radio Network and Locked On Red Raiders joins us in 15. So, Ari, let's dive back in. Who is the one player that Texas Tech absolutely cannot lose this season?
I would say that would be pass rusher Trey White. We know how important David Bailey was to Texas Tech's overall success last year. He became the number 2 overall pick. Number 2 overall pick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now you got a guy in Trey White who had 29 tackles for loss, 19.5 sacks over 2 seasons at San Diego State. So, I mean, he's elite in terms of production. This is the guy that is expected to step in and become the new David Bailey. You know, along with Adam Trick, they added a ton of defensive ends, Austin Romaine through the portal, but to me, Trey White is the most important, the guy that's irreplaceable, the one guy that cannot lose.
Yeah, those are big shoes to fill, and I went with a guy that is also stepping in and expected to play at the same level as a guy that's now in the NFL, and that's at linebacker. Ben Roberts, the assumption is that he will be their Jacob Rodriguez. The difference between him and White is that Roberts has been there. Big 12 championship game MVP. He had 2 interceptions. He had 5 tackles, a pass breakup. He was all over the field. You look at his tackle numbers, 107 his first year, 83, and then 74. Big 12 freshman defensive player of the year back in 2023. First team or second team, all Big 12, every year that he's been in Lubbock. He is the quarterback of that defense. He does it with his stats. He does it with his mind. He's the one player for me that they cannot lose. Hidden strength, not a on-the-surface strength, a hidden strength for Texas Tech. What do you have?
Yeah, I went here with linebacker because I think, you know, we power ranked the top 5 positional units across the Big 12, and we had, Texas Tech secondary, Texas Tech's defensive line. I think you had linebackers.
I had linebackers.
But you included pass rushers in that.
Yeah.
Trick, Romaine, and White.
And everybody just assumes, Rodriguez is gone, so what are they going to do at linebacker? No, they've got dudes.
Right. I mean, you've got Ben Roberts, who, again, was the MVP of the Big 12 title game and had 100 tackles, but played in the shadow of Jacob Rodriguez. So he becomes your Rodriguez this year. And then you've got Romaine and Trick and Trey White, you know, as edge rushers flanking him. So it's Roberts that's sort of responsible for everything that gets past the line of scrimmage, and then it's those edge rushers that are responsible for getting to the quarterback and getting to the ball carrier behind the line of scrimmage. So linebacker for me is a huge hidden strength for this team.
So I go the other side of the football. I go with the running back room. And I know Dickey's an all Big 12 guy. So I highlight the backups. Nobody knows how good these backups are. The guys that if Dickey goes down, and I think his workload, like his carries per game, won't be what it was last year because they've got Jacoby Williams back, who had almost 800 yards as a backup. He had over 107 all-purpose yards per game, which was 4th in the Big 12. He was one of only 4 players in the league that had a kickoff return for a touchdown. And then they've got the other guy that nobody's even seen play in Quentin Joyner, who averaged almost 8 yards per carry 2 years ago at USC. 5-star recruit out of high school. So I highlight the backup running backs behind Dickey that may ultimately get the majority of the carries if Dickey suffers any type of injury, if he's just a little bit dinged up. You've got 2 really good options to be your bell cow.
Yeah, that's a great call. It's a huge hidden strength, maybe the biggest strength on Texas Tech's roster.
What do you got for the number?
My number today is actually not a number. It's the absence of a number, which is 0.
Oh, okay.
0 is the number.
Like it.
The January 1st, 2026, Oregon 23,
Ooh.
Texas Tech
Ooh.
0.
That's a donut.
There are a lot of new players in this team. So I'm not entirely concerned with any lingering impact of that loss, but that loss will follow them all year. that number, 0 points, will follow them all year. We talked about this earlier, but they had a ton of success on offense last year. They had the number 1 offense in terms of explosive play rate, right? Like, they did a lot during the regular season that they could not do against Oregon's defense. So we are going to judge their offense this year completely differently than we did last year because we didn't recognize that this offense was not as good as it looked in Big 12 play when it went up against some of the best teams in the country. And I think nationally, the talk around Texas Tech, aside from the Sorsby stuff, will be around this. Oh, yeah, they were really good last year, made the playoff, didn't score. So 0 to me is a huge number that will really loom large over the entire season for Texas Tech.
Yeah, it's already started to kind of haunt them. Sticking with that same theme, my number is 9 because 9 Texas Tech players are off to the NFL. 9 players were drafted, a new school record, tied for the 4th most in all of college football, and 5 more picks than any other Big 12 program. We're talking about David Bailey, Romello Height, Lee Hunter, Jacob Rodriguez. So 9 is the number of pros that were on this team last year that they built that Big 12 championship squad with, but 9 is also a huge crater that they've got to fill, and they've done it in the portal, but we haven't seen these guys in the black and red on any given Saturday. They had some generational players with Jacob Rodriguez, with what David Bailey did in his one season. To fill those voids, I'm not sure they have a top 5 NFL draft pick on this roster. We'll find out. But I don't know that I see a Rodriguez or a David Bailey. Now, collectively, depth-wise, sure, upgrades across the board. But that's still a huge void to fill. All right, before we get to what success looks like, what is the pressure point?
So this could be either, to me, Brennan Sorsby or Joey McGuire. And I went with Sorsby here just because, again, like, he is about to be in the pressure cooker. And he's, like, in some ways all by himself. He's got tech support. We've heard the president of the university. We've heard, all the support that he's gotten. But, like, you step out of that huddle, you call a play, you step to the line of scrimmage, you're all by yourself. It's you and what's between your ears and your teammates helping you out. And, look, this is going to loom large over the sport all year. If Texas Tech is not ranked as high in the coaches poll as they should be because some of the writers or coaches don't rank them higher because of the Sorsby thing, like, teammates are going to look at Sorsby and wonder about that whole situation. I mean, it's going to loom so large. It'll play very much into his psyche. What's the psyche of that locker room? I thought about McGuire in this spot simply because of his ability to kind of bring the room together and, his leadership and the needed part of it. But I think way more pressure is on Sorsby this year. His entire career is culminated in this. And that is without even the gambling part of it, right? Like, the 2 years that he had at Cincinnati, there was some good, some bad. He was highly sought after. This was supposed to be a big year for him where he would explode on the scene and become a top 5 pick. And instead, it's gone completely awry for him, added a whole nother element of pressure.
I have Sorsby as my pressure point, too, because the pressure has already started. The pressure is more than just lining up as one of only 4 power conference quarterbacks in the last 2 seasons to have 5,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards. The talent is real. But every single snap he takes this season will carry the weight of this gambling investigation. The $5 million price tag, the temporary injunction, and then the expectations of a program that just played in the college football playoff. I can't think of an athlete in the entire sport, any sport, carrying more pressure than Brendan Sorsby.
Correct.
At this moment.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Not only is Brennan Sorsby under the most pressure at Texas Tech, he's under the most pressure nationally in any sport.
All right, what does success actually look like with so many unknowns right now?
Yeah, I mean, you got to win a college football playoff game. So you got to win a Big 12 championship, get back to the playoff, and go and win a game. Because that's pretty much the only thing they didn't do last year, aside from losing to Arizona State without their quarterback. They did everything you could possibly do except for winning a college football playoff game. So the next step this year would be doing that. They feel like they've got a better quarterback. My goodness, they put a ton of on it in terms of his success. So there's a lot that's riding on it. College football playoff win would be what success looks like this year for Texas Tech.
If you're watching us on Big 12 Studios, you will see the exact same thing on my side as well, because I'm with you 1,000%. And that's the next step, not just for Texas Tech, for the Big 12 Conference. 2 teams in the college football playoff, sure, that'd be fine. But getting a win in the college football playoff is the next benchmark for this league. And keep in mind, the college football playoff committee is subjective in how they rank these teams. There's no computer system. And the court of public opinion is already doing everything they can to keep Texas Tech out.
Yes.
The court of public opinion is going to be in that room when they decide the rankings. So if Texas Tech doesn't win a Big 12 championship, the path for them to sniff a college football playoff berth, that's an uphill battle. All right, why they will and why they won't win the Big 12.
Why they will is the better, easier argument because they just won the Big 12, and even though they lost 9 players to the NFL draft, they replaced those 9 players with guys that they believe will come in and become the next 9 players drafted for Texas Tech. That's what elite programs do, and that's certainly what Texas Tech is doing. They seem to have upgraded a quarterback. More on that in a second. They've certainly done a good job to replace players lost on the defensive side. Should be a very good defense once again. They added in the portal at the wide receiver position. They added it on offensive line, and then solidify. The running back room has already been solidified based on Joyner returning and the 2 guys they had last year. So there's a very easy argument to be made on behalf of Texas Tech winning the Big 12.
So I think the path for them to win the Big 12 centers around the one position that we've been talking about at length, and that's quarterback. And not just Sorsby, also Will Hammond. It should not be lost on our audience that Will Hammond is coming off a torn ACL. And the next quarterback is a kid that threw 5 passes against West Virginia as a redshirt freshman and a transfer from Tulsa who was benched after week 4. So that position, if they can lock it down with Sorsby or Hammond or whoever, I do trust in James Blanchard and the talent upgrade depth-wise. I think that they saw that Oregon game as a teachable moment. What do we need to do to get better? And they attacked it in the portal with a tenacity that we saw the year before. All right, why they won't win the Big 12?
Well, the Sorsby piece looms large. These things don't occur in a vacuum. These are human beings in that locker room. There are probably many that disagree with Sorsby's ability to play. There are probably some that are fine with it and think, if you can help us, you're in my locker room, that's awesome. But this Sorsby thing can go very south for them. Like, again, in a vacuum, of course you do whatever you can to support him and let him play. But in a real-world situation, you're not entirely sure how toxic this can become inside your locker room. And it could very well become extremely toxic inside the locker room. Again, based on people disagreeing with this, based on however they feel about Sorsby, if they feel like they're being slighted by the polls because of the situation with Sorsby, right? So there's a lot of ways which this can go very south very quickly. So for me, that's it, right? Like the Sorsby saga can actually sabotage the season for Tech.
And remember, like, when he was at Cincinnati the last 2 seasons.
Oh, yeah.
Cincinnati hasn't won a game in November with him at quarterback.
Which means Brandon Sorsby has not won a game in November as a starting quarterback since...
I'm not so sure ever. I don't remember what he did at Indiana. I don't have his game log in front of me, but...
Well, we know he gambled. That we know for sure.
But did he win football games? I could also see the offensive line having some chinks in the armor just with the amount of newness. Yeah. I'm not so sure that they could withstand injuries with that group up front. So I do think there's a path for them to not be in Arlington that could be justified. But like all this Sorsby stuff, why did he struggle so much towards the end of the year when his confidence started to crumble? Back-to-back seasons. Cincinnati gets ranked in the top 15. They get slaughtered by Utah, and then they lose out. Like, that is pre-gambling investigation. So there's a lot of questions.
By the way, so...
yeah, what do you do?
Brendan Sorsby last won a game in November as a starting quarterback on November 4th, 2023 against Wisconsin. He then went on to lose as the quarterback of Indiana 3 straight to close out the month of November. So he is riding a 8, 9, 10, 11 game November losing streak as a starting quarterback.
And that Texas Tech, the meat of their schedule, is in November.
November.
All right, Chris Level from the Texas Tech Red Raider Radio Network, host of Locked On Red Raiders. Can't wait to catch up with Chris. He's in Lubbock. He'll join us live on the program next.
Here's Martin on 2nd and 3, but he is met and tackled for a loss. Jacob Rodriguez making his first big moment. Wigman to the air, and the pass is picked off by Rodriguez. And then he hurdles a Cougar and is still going. And finally brought down inside the 25-yard line. A lot of yelling at the line. Finally the snap. Avery Johnson on a straight ball came out again. It's out again, and Pollock has it. Chase Brown.
This is how you respond to Heisman hype. Rodriguez, touchdown.
You definitely need Sam Jackson. Handoff here as that one is taken away. Going the other way. Make it the 4th play of the game. That's a game changer. Taken to the house. It's Jacob Rodriguez.
They set it in motion. Look out for that screen action. Underneath, intercepted by Rodriguez. Jacob Rodriguez, the big play.
Come back to haunt him because they've been blowing teams out. Nice play in the backfield again by Rodriguez, taking down Connors for a loss.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. Chris Level, Texas Tech, Red Raider Radio Network, and host of Locked On Red Raiders. Our good buddy joins us from Lubbock on the program. And Chris, I know that Jerry Seinfeld's going to be in town on Friday at Buddy Holly Hall there in Lubbock. That's a big deal. But anything else going on in Lubbock right now?
I'm just thankful that I still have you guys' friendship, and y'all are willing to play radio with me. Nobody else wants to play, so. But yeah, I appreciate it. But yeah, it's been an interesting week for sure.
Yeah, I was listening to the pod you dropped on Locked On, and I just wanted to give you a hug. And I genuinely could not tell your personal opinion on this, and I know obviously your connection to Tech and your history with Tech. I'm certainly on an island seemingly by myself in support of Sorsby and calling out, as some people are referring to it, whataboutism in the sport overall. But how are you doing, I guess is the question here. Are you okay? Do you need a hug?
No, man, it's all good. These are the career choices that we all made, right? When stuff happens and you cover it, you got to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's just I think that I was telling Taman, it's like if the injunction had not been granted, we would be having a much different conversation right now for obvious reasons. But I don't think a lot of what we've seen in the last 48 hours would have taken place. And what is interesting about it is that, and I've said this before, but Texas Tech, they backed this player weeks ago. It was all very public, letter out there by President Skuvanik, and yet there was just a little bit of reaction to that, but there wasn't threats of boycotts and the moral compass of some that have
right.
The whole thing, because I just think that generally most people didn't think that he would win the injunction, and then when he won it, and you guys know this, but that judge is from Tarrant County, which is in Fort Worth. He was retired, but he was assigned because the Texas Tech judge recused himself. So there's lots of misinformation out there about that.
Yeah.
So anyway, but here we sit, and yeah, it's I don't know where we go from here because I don't think this is over. I don't think it's a guarantee that Brendan Sorsby plays quarterback for you. I don't know what that looks like. I think we're all kind of waiting to see what the league does, because any meeting that they're going to have, it's going to be voted on 15-1 if there's a vote asked for. That's just the way it's going to be. And what exactly are they allowed to do? We're getting into bylaws and all these things, and if they vote to say he can't play, just where do we go from here? And then I think there's also a component, guys, of and we're deep in the weeds. You kind of, if this is ultimately the decision that gets made, you kind of like, man, we could have all made this decision weeks and months ago. But I think you guys touched on it earlier, but does Brendan or his family or whatever just say, we don't want to drag you guys through this anymore, and so I don't know where we go from here, but I think this story will get advanced a bit more today and tomorrow. I think for sure. I just think we're kind of waiting to see what all this looks like. So yeah, here we are. But I think that you still have a question about your quarterback situation for this year. That's my opinion. So
well, and we still have 90 days until the season starts. So
right.
Does the court of public opinion sway Texas Tech in any way, or do they double down on, hey, we're supporting our guy, F the haters, we're going to let him play? What do you think happens?
I don't think I think I don't think it's like the F the haters part, but I do think that, like, if you're supporting him, you're supporting him. You made this decision, long time ago. I don't think that what does it say if you're like, okay, never mind, these lights are too bright, we're not going to support you anymore. I mean, that's not where they ever came from at it on. And obviously they're getting a lot of criticism for that, but I don't envision that part of it at all. I just wonder about what the league will do, what Sorsby will. I mean, is he comfortable with all this? And I guess that part remains to be seen. But I don't envision a scenario to where they just decide not to back him anymore. Otherwise, why did you back him to begin with? Nothing has changed from that standpoint other than the public outcry. But you know, I don't know where I don't know where the happy medium is. I don't know if that exists for everyone to feel better about it. This is going to be we're not done with this, I guess is my point. And if he does play, it's going to be a circus. But it's like I've seen talk of putting bounties out on him. I think the folks on Reddit everybody sent this to me. They're just blowing up the Texas Tech offices with calls, and it's so wild to me. Like there's a lot of bad things that have gone on, right? And that's what like if I say that, then I get criticized for like, you're just deflecting. But it's like crazy because it's like no law was broken here, no one else was harmed. But yeah, he's being painted as the devil of sorts, and yeah, as is Texas Tech, as we're seeing. So anyway, it is what it is. I mean, what are you going to do? But we'll continue to react to what's there. But I just think there's more to the story to come. I just don't know what that looks like.
Chris, I'm curious. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, death threats and harassment, like that's next level. That's a whole different conversation.
Well, especially we're talking about like domestic violence incidences and
yeah,
sexual
and I'm
assault.
saying I don't know if I've heard of a death threat. I've heard. I mean, I've just seen a lot of chatter on social media, like putting out bounties on the kid and like in the game and all this stuff. Anyway, it's just like it's just like this has gotten crazy, but it's like I think everybody feels like they've got a free chance to take some shots, and they are doing it. Coaches, athletic directors, fans, I mean the whole thing. So yeah, but yeah, that's just the situation that we're all in here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Chris, do you have a sense here that Sorsby or Texas Tech had any sense of the firestorm that is engulfing them right now in terms of the media reaction? Like,
I can't speak to Brendan's situation at all. I think some at Tech had to have known. Because I think I said this to you guys weeks ago. We'd be very naive and crazy to think that initially that everybody would have been on the same page to support him. That would just I mean, because it's an interesting situation. Yes, there's some dynamics at play like mental health and all the stuff, but some would have just said, yeah, we're just not. But this is where they landed. So I think that I guess my point is I'm sure that some did understand. Yeah, this may not go well. And again, I just wonder how much of this would have been alleviated if he just doesn't win the injunction. But I told Taman that before that, it's like the irony is because the NCAA's legal team was just bad, like comparatively speaking in the hearing. This was a 2-game suspension. How did they land there? Well, this is what Sorsby's camp pitched. And I think it was the part of a negotiation that they thought they could land on 4 games, 6 games, whatever. Mm-hmm. So you start low, maybe you look for a counter. It's kind of like buying a house or a car or something. But the NCAA just like didn't bend, and they're like, no, ineligible, which is they're right. But so the judge basically accepted what was proposed. And the reason that they pitched the 2 games and thought they'd probably land on 3 or 4 is because of the precedent set with the Indiana volleyball coach that bet over $325,000 and was suspended by the NCAA for I think 30% of their season, which netted in 10 games. And that's kind of what the precedent that Jeffrey Kessler kept hinting at and talking about in his opening and closing statements and all those things. So Anyway, it's this is a lot. There's a lot of layers here for sure.
Chris, I know you noted that you can't speak too much on Brendan Sorsby, but like he's a high character kid in terms of just who he is as a person. We've met him at media days. Any chatter about like where is he now? What is Texas Tech doing to protect him, and just how he's handling any of this, or is it just pretty much crickets on that front?
I think he's in Lubbock. I think he's working out with the team and everything. I think, and I think part of his treatment was to get away from his phone, which is obviously what allowed him to place all these wagers and everything like that. I couldn't tell you if he's aware of what is going on. I'm sure that people around him are. There's no way that he doesn't know about what has been said and written and all that. But I'm sure that part of it is he's trying to, stay away from a lot of this. But that's not going to be possible once the season gets here if he is in fact the quarterback. But yes, I think that they didn't know he was involved in any of this activity, or they wouldn't have taken him. But they did know this player from high school. They've known his dad, who was a high school coach at Lake Dallas. There were people that also knew his dad, and so there was lots of connections there. There was Ben Roberts, I think, has known Brendan for a long time, and way back since their middle school and high school days. The Texas Tech linebacker. So they felt like he was a quality kid, good character, all that stuff, and nobody's seen anything different from him other than that. But then you got this major problem in the closet that everybody's found out about, and yeah, it's put you in a bit of a pickle. But as far as like how he's operated here, and his girlfriend transferred here to play volleyball. I mean, she's here, so yeah, that's. But how's he doing? How's he handling this? Great question. And at some point, if this continues and he is in fact going to be your quarterback, when is the first time we hear from him, and what does that look like, sound like, all that. So I think that to be determined.
We had you on not necessarily to talk about Sorsby exclusively. It's just funny enough from a timing perspective. But we did the road to Arlington, Texas Tech today. And so just kind of doing a deep dive on the roster, and obviously Sorsby sort of paints this whole picture here. But what do you think is the best position group on the defense heading into this season? Is it the secondary? Is it the linebackers? Is it the defensive line? I don't know where you'd put White and Trick and Romaine in that conversation, but give us your sense here on the defense at which is the best unit, and what's most exciting to you about this?
Yeah, it's one of the groups in the front seven. I think there's just one question mark. It's safety, and their secondary, who they're going to play next to Brendan Jordan. Which I think will be Peyton Morgan. Was a very talented younger player that is just looking for a chance. And when Coy Parrish came in here on a visit, he's one of the top transfer guys out there that ended up signing with Oregon. Basically, you just kind of heard a lot of chatter that, hey, I think we're gonna go internal here. We're not gonna match what Oregon was offering, and I know it's cool to say Texas Tech outbids everyone, but that's not always the case. Coy Parrish and Cam Coleman that ended up at Texas. There's other folks that are paying players too a lot. But I've seen it said that the Texas Tech has the best linebacker group in the country. I don't know if that'll end up being true, but the one unknown there to I think many is John Curry. There's NFL folks that feel like if he comes out after next year, he's a second or third round pick. Wow. And yes, that's the reality of that. And my favorite way to look at some of this stuff is what the NFL thinks, because they're unbiased. They don't care where players come from. They've been doing this for years and years. They study this stuff. They're not always perfect, but when you get a consensus, and there's some in the scouting communities out there in the NFL, they feel like John Curry may have as much upside maybe as anybody on your entire football team. And he's a bit of an unknown to, I think, to anybody outside of Lubbock in a way, because he's played some, inside linebacker, some edge, some hybrid stuff, and even some safety as a star. But I think we all know about Ben, and then I think Austin Romaine, who I think I saw listed as one of the top 100 players in college football on a list the other day. So when you put those three of those guys together, and then they got a sneaky good transfer from Houston named Corey Platt that I think has got some position flex. And this is a young man that played for Shieldwood at Tulane and at Houston. And he played a lot of football for Houston last year, but he's got, so it protects them from a depth standpoint. But then their defensive line is where their strength is for sure. Again, you just don't have the dynamic player like David Bailey. But I think I think they'll start 4 draft picks. I think both edge guys and Mateen and AJ Holmes are all draftable guys, like high to mid round guys. And that's a lot. I mean, this is a new territory for all of us around here. But generally speaking, the NFL seems to think that you'll eclipse your number of draftable guys next year, with or without Sorsby. That surprised me when you start to dig into some of this stuff. But that's where you're at. I mean, James Blanchard is say whatever you want about what they do here. He has been able to identify, and then the coaching staff has been able to develop. But they've got really a lot of talent here. But those two groups should be just fine.
Yeah, I love the Corey Platt reference. He had 40 tackles at Houston last year, 5 TFLs, some impressive numbers. Chris, appreciate your time. We will talk to you soon, and hang in there, for lack of a better phrase.
Hey, it's all good. It's all good, boys. We'll all get through this together. But yeah, I appreciate you guys, and happy to join you anytime. But we'll talk next time. Keep hope alive.
Keep hope alive.
All right,
Chris.
you got it.
See ya. Chris Level, Texas Tech Radio Network, host of Locked On Red Raiders. Bear Bachmeyer joins us in about a half hour, but up next, more on the Brendan Sorsby saga. That's around the corner. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, powered by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
It's a deep ball, left sideline, dropping it right in for Virgil. Oh, what a ball from Baron Morton.
This is a BB. Like, that is a difficult throw to make, and what a catch.
Williams stays in, play fake. Morton well protected, spins one, end zone, cuts! He drops it in the buckets. Coy Aiken reels it in, 42 yards. Downfield strike and brought in by Aiken. They're going to mark him down at the 1-yard line.
Already. Maybe the final play of the quarter. Morton, Seabrown, there it is, and it's caught for the touchdown. Caleb Douglas. And the route is on in Morgantown.
Bear Bachmeyer, the BYU quarterback, here in about 20 minutes. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, powered by Modelo, heard exclusively on TuneIn. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios. So a Texas court has scheduled the Brendan Sorsby trial against the NCAA for February 8th, 2027. That is 2 weeks after the College Football Playoff National Championship. So the temporary injunction, that's it. February 8th is the court date for the trial against the NCAA. The Big 12 held a conference call yesterday. Ongoing discussions is the main takeaway from the statement that was released by the conference and the commissioner, Brett Yormark. Joey McGuire at Big 12 Spring business meetings, this is what he said about Texas Tech and their continued support of quarterback Brendan Sorsby.
We'll continue to support Brendan. I've talked to him multiple times since he's left the facility. And I do that with all my players. Gambling is something right now that we've seen a huge uptick in college students, and I don't think college athletes are really, you can separate them, because I think you are going to see an uptick in that. And so regardless of the timeline when Brendan sought help for his gambling, he has done it at a level that has never been done whenever it comes to college athletics, of this the help that he's been asking for. My job at my core has always been to develop and support young men. That's on and off the field, and we're not going to change that. So we're here to support Brendan. I do believe that he made a mistake, and whenever that happens, I do believe that there should be consequences. But it's my opinion that he shouldn't be penalized for the rest of this year or his career. I think this is when you look at what has been put out and what he's been really honest with and transparent with, he's got a serious problem. And I think the best place to get help, and our president alluded to it, is him being at Texas Tech.
So if you're Texas Tech, Ari, now that the bigger case against with the NCAA is scheduled in February, the temporary injunction has been granted. What's the play? Is there a play? Do you do anything?
No. I mean, you obviously hold your breath for the appeal, but most likely I'm assuming the injunction will be upheld on appeal. You're kind of in no man's land, quite frankly. I'm not entirely sure how the NFL views you. We just talked about it. Brendan Sorsby is a starting quarterback in college football. Has not won a game since his first November game. He's not won a game in November since his first November game. He has lost 11 straight games in the month of November. That's winning time. And that's not explained away by excuses. It's not just Cincinnati's fault. There are other factors in that. So there are legitimate questions about him as an NFL quarterback. So leaving right now for the supplemental draft is a lifeline, but it's not much of one. And what other options do you have? The thing is, though, this could eat him alive. It could completely sabotage any success that Texas Tech was expected to have this year. And the crazy part is it could happen very quickly. Yeah. They play Houston week 3.
Right.
There's so many takes right now. It's kind of insane. If I log on to social media, I will see some video or post either about Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf and that murder, or this. The only two things I'm seeing now on my timeline. Everybody's got the one thing we haven't talked about, this and that and the other. And, the prevailing sentiment that I feel like I've heard, which to me is just freaking hilarious because it creates this distinction that isn't necessarily there, is the idea here, and I heard Ross Tucker on the DraftKings network of all places say, like, this is the end of college football as we know it. Huh? Like, have you not been paying attention? Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here. What?
There haven't been any rules for a long time.
And not only that, but like the transfer portal, NIL, like what world are you living in where that is, yeah, this is the same old college football, but this, and I just can't get over the fact that, like, maybe I'm too naive on the gambling side, but this is not like Mafia in Vegas here. This is not the Black Sox scandal or Pete Rose, okay? This is sports wagering is so much more ubiquitous. It's so much more different now than it ever has been. Access to it, how predatory they can be, right? Like, there's just so much here that the way in which people are sort of equating gambling as if he's shoeless Joe Jackson is insane to me. And then, of course, the notion here that I've heard from many people, and that is, oh, well, college football as we know it is over. Like, no, I mean, it's been over.
Right.
College football that we grew up with is gone and has been gone. And it's been replaced by a transfer portal and an endless cacophony, if you will, of transfers and roster turnover, and like that has changed so dramatically. And the idea that this is now the moment in which college football is certainly a completely different sport is like, you've not been paying attention to the differences in this sport from the 90s to today over the last 5 years. It's a completely
5 years
different
ago.
sport. Yeah.
Man, I can't stop thinking about it. I had to remove myself from checking Twitter pretty much all day yesterday. I checked it like an hour after the show and then before I went to bed, because the firestorm, it's just so much. And ultimately, I find myself incredibly torn on what I think is the best path and the appropriate punishment, if you want to call it that. Because a gambling addiction, it impacts the same part of the brain as a drinking addiction, a drug addiction.
Yeah, it's an addiction.
Right.
People want to pick and choose, though, publicly how they support or don't support certain addictions, right?
Totally. The one thing that...
Alcohol addiction, yeah, sure, I know that. I see that. Gambling? This sounds like a convenient excuse.
Right. It's not an excuse. I think that should be made very clear. He is an addict, and he's now a recovering addict of sports gambling. But the part that I'm torn on and still have unanswered questions is betting on your own team. And I know that was 3 years ago. 20-something guys talk about women, beer, and sports betting. So it's hard for me to believe that his teammates were not aware, and some teammates are taking to social media, former teammates, saying, yeah, we knew he was betting the props under on this player to do this. All that is speculation. I get that. But I struggle to believe that more people weren't aware of it. And that, to me, has a great impact. Like let's say if Taman bets me $100 throughout the course of our show, you're going to say the word phenomenal over 5.5 times. You don't know about it. Does it impact your performance? No. But does it impact Taman's performance? Absolutely. Where it switches for me is, what if you do know? What if you know that Taman has bet me $100 that you're going to say the word phenomenal over or under 5.5 times throughout the course of our show? Does it impact your performance? Like, does that word hit differently?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know that you have or have not done this, but I'm now no longer going to use that word.
Every time you hear the word phenomenal. All right,
now you've made me self-conscious that I use the word phenomenally too much.
No, that was actually a shot at myself.
Got it.
My wife tells me I use it too much.
Got it.
We'll put $1 in the jar every time we say the word phenomenal.
Okay, so, but let's
But you get to the use of the word phenomenal 3 times, 4 times. Do you start thinking, are you more likely to say it again? Are you less likely? Are you consciously avoiding it? Like, just the whole mindset of student athletes on a Saturday, if they knew that their quarterback, even though he's sitting the bench, was placing bets on their performance, has a significant impact, I think, on how I would view this. The hypocrisy of the NCAA I'm not on board with that.
Well,
the hypocrisy of this is what's breaking the sport. I'm not on board with that either. But I'm looking at a very individual, specific instance that I'd love to know the answers to, and ultimately we might not ever get.
Yeah, I think that's all fair. I also, again, think, like, what does this do for the psyche of that locker room is probably the most underappreciated point here in terms of, like, all right, what are we talking about here? We're talking about success. For this team to be successful, the Sorsby saga will carry a ton of weight. If they're successful or if they fail, it'll be because of Sorsby both on the field and off the field and the psyche of the team. In terms of the hypocrisy, for me, this is like where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I only learned about what aboutism is recently because apparently I'm doing it when it comes to this. On social media in particular, where it's like, you know, calling out the inconsistencies of the athletic director at Georgia or Nebraska in this case, where they're saying we aren't going to follow these rules that we set up. And so people are saying, well, you're basically saying two wrongs make a right in that situation. No. Like, there are people that are concerned that games are compromised that Sorsby's playing in. I get that, right? Like, it's the whole integrity part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, what about players that shouldn't be eligible that are eligible to play based on eligibility, right?
Same thing.
It's the same thing, isn't it? I don't understand what people don't understand. They've created this huge distinction between those two things, and it's not.
Right.
That's compromising the integrity of the game. He shouldn't be eligible to play. He shouldn't be playing.
This isn't the only thing that has compromised the integrity of the game. That part drives me nuts as well. But what do you do if you're Brendan Sorsby? Do you say, you know, I think it was an interesting note that Chris added during our interview that part of his recovery process is that he's not allowed to have a smartphone, which means maybe he's not seen. I'm sure he's well aware, but he's not seen it like we are, if that is indeed the case. But if you're Brendan Sorsby, do you keep your head down, prepare for the season, get ready for the firestorm that will hit once the season kicks off and continue over the next 90 days? Or do you start to consider walking away voluntarily? Which is another note that Chris brought up during that interview.
I think when it comes to this, the toughest decision is from Joey McGuire. I thought Joey had a really tough job last year, just trying to make sure that all of the guys that they brought in mixed and fit together properly in that locker room and on the field. I mean, this is
that on steroids.
Yeah, that's a walk in the park compared to what this is. You've backed your quarterback the entire time. Now the media firestorm's upon you. How does the locker room feel about it? Does the locker room want him? There's Texas Tech fans that don't want him to be playing for the team this year. I'm sure there's many calls that Texas Tech has fielded to this degree. I don't envy that decision. With Sorsby, it's pretty obvious. You're looking out for you. Mm-hmm. And for me, if I'm Sorsby, I got to put better film together so I can get on an NFL radars to be a first-round pick. That's my goal. The only way to do that is to play this year. If I go to the supplemental draft, especially with all of this, I'm not going to get a very high grade. Certainly not first or second round, maybe not third or fourth.
Yeah.
So you're sort of, if you're Sorsby, you've made this bed, now you got to lie in it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because one of the other reactions you hear is like, well, there just isn't any recourse for actions here, right? Like and this is a common theme here in college sports right now. Like we talked about this when it came to basketball eligibility. And like you want people to have to like live with decisions they made that are bad decisions because that's in life what happens to us. We make decisions and we have to live with the results of those decisions. And so when you get guys that are bolting college basketball to go to the NBA and then they go undrafted and now they're unhappy, it's like that's a decision made in life. You got to live with that. We all do. We all have decisions we make in life, so we have to live with the actions, the recourse of those decisions. So I think like at the end of the day, people are ticked off about that aspect of this too. You made bad decisions here, bro. You have to be penalized for those bad decisions. Well, he is. This is his penalty. You may not think of it that way, but it is very much a penalty. He is a pariah publicly. The court of public opinion hates him, doesn't want him playing. Who knows what kind of threats he's been getting or will be getting, especially if he's successful. And it all goes back to this could ruin your NFL career.
Yeah.
Before it's even started. And not just in terms of how he's viewed by NFL teams, but like regardless of the type of NFL quarterback he could have become, this mentally could ruin him.
Yeah.
That's the penalty he's receiving right now.
And the NFL future piece is in terms of if I was Brendan Sorsby, what would I do? My NFL future is priority number one. He's not getting selected in the supplemental draft. The consequences of a team drafting him far outweigh the benefits at this point in time. So he's got two options to me. He plays, hopes that this is behind him enough and he balls out enough that NFL teams, what would now be considered, take a flyer on him, or he sits out, shows that, hey, I'm willing to accept the punishment. I'm doing what I think is for the betterment of the team, putting others before myself, and he gets drafted in the second, third, fourth, or drafted at all in the 2027 NFL draft. So those are the two options, and right now I'm not sure what's better because in some ways I don't know that playing helps his NFL draft stock, even if he is the second coming of Patrick Mahomes. Within the court of public opinion and what we saw from the NFL just this past draft in Shedeur Sanders going from a top 10 talent to the 5th round.
The problem, the crazy part to me too is like, what do these teams see that we don't see? How is he the most sought-after player in the portal? And that's not meant to be a knock on Sorsby, but there's legitimate questions about him.
Yeah, as a player.
I mean, we literally just talked about the fact that Cincinnati has not won a November game since 2023. Neither has Sorsby as a starting quarterback. Sorsby's lost 11 consecutive games in the month of November, the final month of the regular season in college football, the money month, if you will. He's lost 11 straight. That's not just Indiana and Cincinnati football problems. So, like, I'm also just sort of like, is it
worth it?
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Like, this whole saga has put him on a pedestal that his numbers don't necessarily back up.
But it's bizarre because they don't, but yet at the same time, out of Hoover and Levitt and Mensa, he was the guy?
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me all these LSU and Indiana and all these teams that Chris Hummer said were interested in him, they all did the research, they all looked at the film and saw Sorsby as the best one. What are they seeing that we're not? Because the eye in the sky doesn't lie. It's not like Texas Tech was the only team that wanted him. It's crazy. It feels like the film disagrees with the evaluation from coaches.
Right.
Now, I'm probably more going to err on the side of the coaches, but...
Well, and NFL talent evaluators, I was stunned to first learn pre-investigation that, like, he could be the first quarterback off the board in next year's draft, that he would even be considered in that same camp. I'm totally with you on that. BYU quarterback Bear Bachmeier is coming up next, and BYU head coach Kalani Sitake. These were from Big 12 spring business meetings, caught up with the Cougars out in Provo. Bear Bachmeier and Kalani Sitake after the break. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. This is Big 12 Radio.
Here comes the rush. Jackson off platform. Knocked down on the edge. Keyshawn Elliott running and hitting in space.
It is first and goal. Play fake. Chapin rolling right. Chapin is being pursued, and instead of throwing it away, he takes a sack. So instead of throwing the ball away, he takes a loss of about 4.
Hoover, nice pump fake, but trapped. Keyshawn Elliott again.
Outstanding job by Keyshawn Elliott. In the last 9 red zone trips. Connors gets the pitch. Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. Swallowed up by Keyshawn Elliott, second leading tackler on the team. That's number 52 on the year.
They take off. Jackson rolls their way. Hit as he throws. And these Sun Devils, they are hitting tonight. No gain there. 2nd and 10. Sprint roll. And a sack.
Keyshawn Elliott had Scotty Fox Jr. roll right to him.
This is Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today. I'm here at the Big 12's spring meetings at the Omni PGA in Frisco, and you're looking right now at Bear Bachmeyer, the BYU sophomore quarterback at the BYU facility, getting ready for a season. Bear, how are you?
Doing well, yeah. Thank you for having me on.
What was last year like for you?
I mean,
like take me back to like spring football. So you spent, for people that we've talked about a lot, but you spent spring football at Stanford, Palo Alto. Your coach gets let go, and so you went to the portal. Like, what was that whole process like to get you to Provo by fall?
Yeah, it was a roller coaster of emotions. Some hard decisions were made to obviously leave Stanford, and end up at BYU, and I'm so grateful and just honored to be at such a great university. Talking about the season, it was obviously a crazy season, and I thought coming in, I thought we could win some games. I didn't think it would amount to what we did, and I feel like we always internally we knew, but just going out there with some swagger and showing everyone what we could do was cool.
When did you know for yourself? Because I'm sure there was doubt. You're a true freshman. You haven't played or shown at this level. Like, when did you know?
Yeah, I guess the cliche answer is that I knew right away. I mean, just kind of the guy I am, and just having that chip on my shoulder all the time, and just the competitive nature. For me personally, and then, I mean, I always knew the team was really good. We had a top 10 defense, and whatever statistically we're offense. I mean, we're very explosive and dangerous as well. So we just had a great team and a great bond.
Yeah, I mean, and you say it's a cliche answer. Honestly, it takes a level of irrational confidence to be able to do what you did last year, right? I mean, for a true freshman to start, full stop, like that's tough. For a true freshman to start that wasn't even on campus in spring is, I thought, impossible. So what went into that? Like, was it just the fact that you knew the team around you was going to be really good? Was it your confidence? Like, just how do you do that? Because that is unbelievably impressive.
I mean, I just think it goes to the character that the coaches recruit here, and being at BYU, there's a standard that everybody meets, and just the work ethic, and even in the classroom, which we always talk about it correlating on the field, and just being a good person, and so when you take the character of student athletes at BYU and football players at BYU, and you just combine them as one team, something special happens, and so we got to keep it going.
Yeah. So what was Aaron Roderick, the BYU offensive coordinator, able to do last year? One, and then two, how much did the offense evolve for you over the course of the year?
Yeah, well, when you start off any season, you kind of you have your generic plays, and then as the season goes on, you keep implementing more stuff, and it's also tailored towards certain defenses. But no, I like how. I mean, a lot of credit, a lot of credit goes to Coach A-Rod and bringing me along, and just having that trust and confidence, and it made me play free, and it kind of showed the player that I was, and it's a testament to Coach A-Rod for sure.
So what is it, now having the full off season, like what has that meant to your development?
Yeah, a lot. I obviously have more time to, build chemistry with the guys, and off the field activities as well. I'm a big believer in off the field activities, building that camaraderie, and so whether it's like pool parties or we were in Southern California for a little, so just building those bonds.
Yeah, so how do you do that? Is it about you kind of organizing a group? Like, kind of give us a sense of that. Or is there a bunch of you guys that are from Southern California, so it was easy? Like, kind of give us a sense of that.
Yeah, we did a little training deal in Southern California, but it's not too hard. It's usually, hey, do you want to go grab a burger or whatever, and then it's kind of just how you bond.
What question do you get more, about your first name or about your number?
Probably the number, but the name is there as well.
And Bear is your actual name, yes?
My real name is actually Michael. Yeah, named after my dad.
Okay, got it. But Tiger
Nickname.
is also like same thing.
His real name is actually James. Yeah, he's the lineage of the names. Tiger's James the fourth, and then I'm the second, named after my dad.
Bear, I mean, look, my middle name is Michael. It's a cool name, but Bear is a way better name. And same with Tiger and James. I mean, James is a very common name, so Tiger's just way more. I mean, there's another athlete with the name. I don't know if you know that, but
Yeah, no, there's a lot of family stock within the names, and yeah, my dad kind of just kept that going.
how cool is it to play with your brother?
Very cool. Yeah, he's it's just awesome having my brother with me. We live together, and yeah, we did a road trip with some of the teammates up to Colorado for Memorial Day, and it was just a great time to yeah, me and Tiger there, and just all the teammates, and it's just really fun.
What'd you guys do?
We went boating and just bonfires and just live the Colorado life, I guess.
That's amazing. A lot of fun. What kind of music do you like to listen to?
I like country, and then like when I want to get groovy, I listen to, like, old R&B. So
Nice. What do you have like a specific routine you do before every game, music or things you eat before every game?
no, I usually I don't when it's like pregame meal, I kind of just
Eat.
throw everything on there, if it's like chicken or steak and shrimp or whatever, and some rice. So
Tell us about Kalani Sitake. What's your relationship like with him? What makes him different in your eyes?
he's just the same guy every day. I mean, I've gotten this question actually a lot of times, and he's just authentic. He's himself 24/7, and he's a great man to play for, and he's a great mentor for us players to look up to.
What'd you learn about yourself last year?
I mean, I think just earn it. Like, I've earned the right to play with confidence and play with swagger, and I mean, I always had that chip on my shoulder, but just playing last year, I feel like I can just carry that kind of confidence with me, and you know, when I'm in between the lines. So
How much different will this offense look, do you think, in 2026?
I mean, thought we looked really good last year. I don't, you know, we got some great new additions that'll spark the fire, and you know, we always have a good run game with LJ and the boys up front. So yeah, we're gonna be really dangerous.
And the last thing is, you know, you have a really good feel for the run. You know, you may not have like the most yardage or be the fastest guy running, but you seem to just have a really good feel for the game of when to run and miss tackles. Like, what is that? Is that just natural to you? Is it just studying the game?
Yeah, just natural. A reason why you know, big factor in coming to BYU was Coach A-Rod's scheme with you know, a lot of pro style principles, but then the implementation of the QB run game, and you know, that's who I am. I'm not going to shy away from running the ball, and just gets us in a rhythm and gets me in a rhythm as well. So
I made it up. So Hank doesn't have an awesome animal name. What's with that? Why is Hank left out?
Hank is his nickname. He's named there again. There's a lot of family lineage,
Sure.
and yeah, his real name is William Lawrence Henry Bachmar, actually. But yeah, just long story. But yeah, he's just named after my dad. Kept the names in the family, and yeah, it's really cool.
But no, like lion or, you know, bat, or I don't know. I mean, like you and Tiger got cool, awesome animal names. Like why couldn't Hank? It was just
No. I mean, it's Hank is actually special to me and my family. And like my dad's uprising as well. So yeah, his name's Hank.
Awesome. Bear, you're the best, man. Wish you nothing but the best of luck this season. It was a lot of fun to watch you last year, and can't wait to see what you do this year, man. Thank you for your time, and be well.
Yeah, thank you so much, and go Cougs.
There's Bear Bachmeier, the BYU quarterback, joining us here on Big 12 Radio, here at the spring meetings on Big 12 Today. Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. At the Big 12 spring meetings here at the Omni PGA Frisco, BYU head football coach Kalani Sitake. How are you, Coach?
Doing great, yeah. This means the season's even closer, so I'm excited.
How has the work been going throughout spring and now into summer?
Yeah, really good spring ball. Proud of the way the guys are working, and they got some time off, and they're back at it now. So, you know, we're getting right into the heat of the summer. It's going to be a lot of fun.
What did you notice from Bear from the Big 12 championship game experience to now?
Yeah, I thought he's grown quite a bit throughout the whole season, and then I thought the extra added practices were really valuable for him in the bowl prep, and then going against a great opponent like Georgia Tech was really good for him too. So hopefully we can keep that momentum. I thought he did great in spring, and it was good for. We didn't have that spring with him before, so it was good for us to get some extra practice with him and get the timing, and also he's a leader. I think before. Last season he was a freshman, just trying to get used to college, and now he's a leader on our team, and he's starting to really feel comfortable, where he's at with the offense, and so we just got to keep building the momentum.
The thing that amazes me still is, it's hard for a true freshman to start, period, let alone one that wasn't on campus in spring. Can you just articulate how rare that is?
I think there's a couple of things. Like he's gifted, and maybe that probably helps out having brothers that have played Division I, and even his brother Hank played quarterback, and so at a very high level, and then having his brother Tiger be a receiver. So I think he always had people that he could throw to, and he comes from an amazing family, and then you combine that with the really good coaches that we have. Aaron Roderick's done a great job as our offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, and has really mentored him the right way. He's done that with a lot of quarterbacks, and he's shown in his experiences as an OC that he knows what he's doing. And so, and then I think he's just given Bear a lot of confidence. And we have a great quarterback room. I think it's probably underrated for people not to realize that the room works really hard, and he represents all the guys that are in there. And it's been amazing seeing those guys progress.
Did you have any time off this offseason at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's it can't be football 24/7, So obviously there's some things that you got to work on, and but yeah, the guys they're still kids, gotta within reason. I mean, they got to stay in shape, but we want them to go through the phases of the off season and get ready for the season.
What about you and your family? Did you go anywhere? Did you do anything fun?
Oh yeah, I hang out with my kids and the family, and I always do Disney trips, so that's kind of what we're going to be doing. But I always try to find time to eat more food too.
What's your favorite?
To eat?
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. That's just usually a good steak is where I go.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. How do you like it cooked?
Medium rare.
Yeah. It's got to be kind of raw.
Yeah.
It's buttery.
Ribeye. Yeah.
Ribeye.
With all the fat.
Bone in?
It doesn't matter. I'll eat it. I'll eat any piece of steak that comes my way.
Do you grill or do you cook steak? Or
yeah, but I'd rather have somebody else do it for me.
And then you said Disney. Is there a Disney World, Disneyland? Is there a preference?
Do both. I mean, my wife's from Orlando, so I don't think she likes to go to Disneyland a little bit more, and I like it all. Honestly, I just whatever makes the kids happy, I'm good with.
Do people recognize you at Disney?
Yeah, I do. I mean, a little bit. I think the thing is, I have brothers, so they think that my brothers are me sometimes, which is great. So they can take pictures. It's like, but I don't know if it's great if people think I'm at Disneyland all the time.
That's amazing that somebody stops your brother. It's like, "Are you Kalani Sitake?" Yeah.
I told him to take a picture. I said, "Wear the royal blue hat and just take a picture and smile. You'll be fine."
He'll like the part. Do you do roller coasters?
I do. Yeah. I mean, that's the ones I can fit in. So yeah, I do.
I don't know. I used to love them, and I found like as I gotten older, it's harder to do them. I get dizzier. I don't know. I'm glad it hasn't happened to you.
No, I'm a fullback, so my brain's been scattered quite a bit. So Guardians of the Galaxy is not going to get.
How amazing is that ride, by the way?
I like it. It's fun. I mean, it's so much fun just hanging with the kids and just seeing everybody having a good time. So I don't mind it at all.
What does Gary Anderson add to your staff?
Yeah, he's experience. He's a D coordinator for such a long time. He's been the head coach before, and so at P4 level, and so just having him around is to be able to consult. And there's a lot of things that he sees, and a lot of things that he says he wishes could have done differently, and I'd be foolish not to listen. And so there's we have a lot of great experienced guys around, and I don't have all the answers, but I know I can go to a bunch of people that do. Fortunate for, or unfortunate, I'm very fortunate to be able to go to so many different resources and those good people that I can talk to, and great leaders and business leaders even, and alumni through BYU. I mean, Andy Reid's a great mentor. So, there's a lot of guys out there that I can always talk to, and I've been fortunate to be around great people.
Yeah, I mean, and as you transition from Jay Hill to Kelly Papinga, I'm sure it's helpful to have a guy like Gary Anderson that can, one, help you identify, hey, this is the right guy, and two, like help to keep it on the tracks, because this defense is basically the same defense from last year personnel wise. So you don't want to take a step back when you have a new defensive coordinator in there.
Yeah, and I think I want Kelly to be. Yeah, he's ready for this moment. He's been in leadership positions before, so he's been a co-coordinator. He's been a special teams coordinator, so he's ready for this moment. And I think Jay's done some great things for us for 3 years, and I think K-Pop's been there the whole time. Been really impressed with what he's done so far. I liked what he did in spring, so. And it helps out that we have guys that are on staff that have been coordinators, and including myself. So we still have great friendships with Jay Hill and everybody else out there. But change is good, and I think this will be good for K-Pop.
And obviously, as a coach, you're looking at it one game at a time, but you've been in the stadium for some pretty incredible environments. And again, I know it's deeper in the season, but this Notre Dame game to me is going to just be incredible. And I think we've talked over the years as you've joined the Big 12 about, all these different opportunities and things that you just got to pinch yourself. And it feels like that'll be another one of those moments, like before the game. Like, there's been some great environments, don't get me wrong, but for that game in particular, I feel like it's just going to be unlike anything we've seen before. But you tell me, you've been in that stadium for a lot of great environments.
I mean, and what a great program, Notre Dame, and Marcus has done a great job with that program. So, to have them come to Provo and then we go there next year. I played way back in the days when in 1994 I was a true freshman and we went to South Bend and played that game, and it was a really cool event, and the classiest fans I've ever met. There at Notre Dame, and we're going to be excited to welcome them to Provo. The crazy thing is, as a head coach, you're supposed to head coach talk, which is one game at a time, but we see the entire schedule, so we know who we're playing and when. Obviously, we're going to be focused on game one, but it's kind of cool that we're able to add that game, and hats off to our administration and our AD for getting that done, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's not going to be easy though. The entire schedule is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
And this is why you get into coaching. It's why why I love being at BYU.
One of the great coaches in the Big 12, one of the great people in the Big 12, Kalani Sitake here from the spring meetings for the Big 12 at the Omni in Frisco.
Quarterback on a run through the right side, Isaiah Marshall. He's been through it quite a long time ago. He's here in year 6. Nice catch. Henderson off to the races with a vapor trail behind him. Pistol, QB keeper again, using over the right side. First down on 2nd and short. And what do you make of the decision from Jim Zabrowski to kind of change
Wrapping up a Wednesday edition of Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio. Don't miss the Big 12 Power Hour. We do it each and every day. All Big 12 all day long here on Big 12 Radio at 2 Eastern, 1 o'clock Central. In the first hour, you get Kansas men's basketball coach Bill Self. Before that, you get Jared Calhoun, the new coach at Cincinnati. And to kick it all off, the new coach at Kansas State, Casey Alexander. And then in part two, Barrett Brooks, former NFL offensive lineman Graham Rossini, AD at Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham, the head football coach of the Sun Devils. That's at 3 Eastern. And then at 4 Eastern, we will replay the hour-long live portion of the show that we did, The Road to Arlington, featuring Texas Tech. Texas Tech looks stacked at every position. Maybe that's also what magnifies this whole thing, just the fact that this is a quarterback. This isn't an offensive lineman or a defensive tackle. It is the quarterback, the face of the franchise. And the Big 12 athletic directors, they had a conference call yesterday. Ongoing discussions is probably the biggest storyline there. But TCU athletic director Mike Buddy is the one AD that has gone on record, and this is what he said.
History has taught me, Jay, that for about 72 hours after crazy things happen, you probably just need to take a deep breath and think on things, not respond emotionally. But I certainly understand why people would say we're not going to compete against Texas Tech and the way the current form of competition is. I'm not going down that road. I mean, I think competition is really good. And to be honest with you, Texas Tech has been really good for the Big 12. They've had some great teams. We just have to get back to kind of some semblance of community.
Well, and keep in mind, TCU plays Texas Tech on a Thanksgiving Thursday late in the year. That's the TCU AD Mike Buddy.
What do you think of the reaction from Notre Dame and Georgia in particular, saying we're not going to schedule Texas Tech in any sport moving forward for this?
Pretty Bush League.
It's just such like a moral high horse thing of
yeah.
Look at how moral we are.
And
look at how great. Can we pat ourselves in the back? Can we do that? Look at how great I am. Aren't I great? Everybody look at how great I am, please. I'm releasing a statement. Sorry. I'm releasing a statement so that everybody knows how great I am compared to everybody else.
I haven't seen Georgia or Notre Dame on Texas Tech's schedule maybe ever, number one.
Yeah, but not just in football. Remember, this is all sports.
All sports. Yeah, Georgia and Texas Tech, they square off quite often on the hardwood or the baseball diamond. Same thing for Notre Dame. It's all sports. It's not just a football school, guys.
But remember, all joking aside, we talked about Tech at softball. Nobody would schedule them because they're mad at Tech softball for spending money.
Yeah.
I mean, sooner or later, Texas Tech's going to run out of teams to play, I guess.
And that would make them Notre Dame. Because Notre Dame's already pissed off the ACC. What's their schedule going to look like moving forward?
So let me ask you this. A couple of things on this. Number one, why the moral high horse here from the schools? Like, what are you getting by not playing them or not scheduling them?
Right. It's like the ultimate flex. I think it's laughable.
It's like social media in a nutshell here. Like, let me just run the social media to tell you how good of a person I am.
Totally.
And I do that by telling you how bad of a person somebody else is.
Georgia, who's had a dozen players arrested in the last 13, 14 months. Maybe it's not quite that small of a window, but it's a dozen players that have been arrested from their football team for various things. Arrested. Not fined by the NCAA. Not going to court. Arrested for breaking the law.
Well, and what I would think.
Love this new chill demeanor that you're rocking too. The arm up on the.
Thank you.
That's a good look.
I'm just here to hang out. Just talk some sports, hang out.
The new studio decor actually blocks my picture. I can't see me ever, which is probably a good thing, unless I do this.
I love that you called it new studio decor. We could just leave it at that.
It is decor.
Yeah, it's decor, all right. It's keeping us under 95 degrees. That's what it's doing. But I digress on the studio temperature. Wouldn't you want to play them? If you know that, Sorsby's compromised, right? He's bet the under here. Wouldn't you want to play them? Like, what, the idea here that they're like a super powered team because of Sorsby? Shouldn't you want to play them?
Yeah.
He's lost 11 straight games in November. Does that do anything to you from a gambling perspective?
Right.
He's 15-5 in games as starter that are not in the month of November.
And I'm not ready to jump on the let's play every bad throw highlight reel from
Okay,
because
that's kind of where I was going with it.
I totally get it. And remember 2 years ago, like his apartment was broken into halfway through the year. He had to move. Like, you're betting $60,000, $70,000 up to $90,000? Like, is that a coincidence?
Was that this year or last year that happened?
That was not this past year. It was the year before.
So it's 2024 season?
Correct.
Man, there's a lot of things now you can go back and be like, whoa. The end of the Nebraska game.
It's a lot of smoke.
Week 1. The people breaking into his apartment week 2.
Bro, there's a lot of smoke. A lot of smoke. All right, coming up.
The good thing is, James, as you and I both know, this will be over tomorrow.
Exactly. What are we going to talk about tomorrow? He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westlane. That'll put a wrap on this Wednesday edition. Special thanks to our Big 12 studios, our guy behind the camera, Anthony Smith, Tamer Turner, our audio producer, keeping us alive and well here on Big 12 today. We're back tomorrow, 8A to 11A Eastern, 7 to 10 Central. We're live each and every weekday for a full 3 hours. We have been brought to you by our friends at Modelo. But for now, we're out.